are great for the airport, our airline and concession partners, and the economy of Phoenix, the Valley, and the whole state of Arizona. The Fiesta Bowl helped started that trend more than 50 years ago, and the game and the events surrounding it are always a highlight. We are proud that more than 100 aviation department family and employees and volunteering to be part of and participate in tomorrow's Fiesta Bowl parade in Central Phoenix. We're excited to be here and to see the teams move on in the brackets, and the Phoenix Sky Harbor staff, along with our concessionaires, our airline partners, are ready to welcome the teams and the thousands of visitors to the Valley for the game. Thank you.
Our next guest has done great work for the city of Phoenix to lift its profile on an international level. He's brought big issues, big sports events to the Valley since moving into his role as the president and CEO of Visit Phoenix. Ron Price has seen how tourism and sports interconnect for decades and in multiple cities. But I know that he knows how much better Phoenix is than any other market across the country. Please welcome Ron Price.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Judy, you were at the game last night.
Yeah.
I was on my couch last night. I want to talk about the game here today. I cannot believe the turnout that happened. And so very excited that we're going to have these two teams with us. Mike, you're right. We do these big events better than anyone else. So we're very fortunate to be a destination where these big events take place. I think we do it very well. And the fact that we get to be a semifinal game this year is going to be very special. Especially when you look at the teams that we have coming in. These are teams that travel. These are teams that the fans are going to be here because their teams are going to be making it to the national championship. So we're looking forward to a great turnout. I want to just say what a great job the Fiesta Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl Foundation has done. They're going to be rolling out the red carpet here. But it's more than that. It's the fact that they're in the community, they're raising funds to build a better community, and for all of us, the citizens here, we can't thank you enough. So let's all give a big round of applause for the Fiesta Bowl and all the Yellow Jackets here. So with that, we look forward to rolling out the red carpet, getting these teams here. It's going to be a fun week. These visitors aren't just coming here for the game, but they're going to be coming here and experiencing the destination. So we look forward to welcome them here. So with that, thank you all.
Thanks, Ron. Our next speaker is someone I love to have on my show. He's one of my favorite guests, and it's because of his passion for college football, but also passion for making the community a better place. Since taking over as executive director and CEO of the organization, he's taken it to new heights, new football initiatives, record levels of giving in Arizona with Arizona's teachers through the Wishes for Teachers. He's led a brand of evolution at the Fiesta Sports Foundation to show all the organization does on, but especially off the field. It's my honor to introduce Eric Moses.
So we've been waiting for almost 4 weeks for these teams to emerge, and emerge they did. There were some great games yesterday. Judy got to see the folks down at the Sugar Bowl and still was able to get back here on time, which is quite a feat. And I was down at the Cotton Bowl seeing Miami surprise most of the college football world and advance to the Verbal Fiesta Bowl. Not all of it. Mike wasn't surprised at all. Look, the road to the national championship runs through the Valley, and we're excited about that, to be able to host another semifinal here where the winner will advance to a national championship. You know, the economic impact that this game and the surrounding activities provide to the Valley is about $200 million, which is really significant for our hotel partners. Yeah, that's worth clapping for. Our hotel partners, our hospitality partners, obviously the airport and other businesses here locally. That's why these events are so important. But more importantly, as Mike alluded to, the Fiesta Sports Foundation really is about giving back to communities all throughout the state of Arizona. And every ticket that is purchased, every sponsorship, every donation that comes into our organization really helps to give back to this community and to support this community. And that's at the heart of what we do. As you can see from the yellow jackets and the red jackets around here, people are giving, as I like to say, their time, talent, and treasure to this organization to help support this state. And so we're so excited that everybody could be here to help us today. Phoenix Sky Harbor is the best place to announce these teams that are coming in here. And I want to thank the airport, the City of Phoenix, and Visit Phoenix for helping us to announce this today. I'm not going to belabor this because we want to get excited about the teams that are going to be coming in here. They're fans that are going to be pouring into the Valley and spending their money here in the Valley and enjoying our fantastic weather, which I can assure you is better than most of the places where these folks will be coming from. So I think we're going to get ready to announce and to slap the brackets on there so we can see who's there. If you have not bought tickets, hurry up, because they're going fast. This is going to be a fantastic game. Thank you all for being here. And without further ado, let's get some names on the bracket here.
It's all about the youth.
All right, and they're going to be facing from the SEC.
It's official, Phoenix is on the clock, 226 days until tip-off.
Today was the official kickoff of the countdown clock at Sky Harbor Airport, marking 226 days until tip-off for the 2026 Women's Final Four.
This is the first time we've ever hosted the Women's Final Four. We're really looking forward to April, where we will welcome fans from all over the world to see the best in women's college basketball.
It is going to be an amazing party and campus in downtown Phoenix. What's really interesting about this event is all of the extra events are free. So it's family friendly. It'll be throughout the weekend. It's a holiday weekend with Easter. And so we'll be able to see families from around the state and around the city come down and enjoy the Women's Final Four.
We have 4 Division I programs here in Arizona, so this community is more than ready to embrace the Women's Final Four when it takes center stage. It's going to be the best setting for the Women's Final Four. For young fans, for players, for coaches, for families, they get to create lifelong memories on one of the biggest stages in sports.
Really, there's nothing like the excitement of March Madness. Women's basketball is on the rise. As someone who played basketball, I too was one of those that envisioned it being at the pedestal that it is today. Yes, they drive tourism. Yes, they drive economic development. But they really give us, our state, our city, an opportunity on the national and global scale to have exposure.
The NCAA has been wonderful about partnering with our Parks Department.
They did renovations and projects such as East Lake Park, got to see new basketball courts and redesign of their facilities. And I am just excited to see how it all comes to fruition in 226 days.
Phoenix is a basketball town. We are also Championship Valley. We have welcomed the NCAA, Super Bowls, great soccer. This is the place to host championship events.
There is no greater place than Phoenix in April because the weather is amazing and we are coming off of spring training, so just get ready to have amazing weather, good sports, and good food out in Phoenix.
So for the next 226 days, this clock will not only serve as a reminder of the Women's Final Four for the millions of travelers that come through beautiful Sky Harbor Airport, it's also a point of pride for all of us here in the community.
You'll see that we are excited about the NCAA Final Four. The women are going to be really proud of the event we put on.
Checkmate.
Good info is a good thing. The Broadway Curve project is in the works. Prepare for lane closures and detours. Stay ahead of the curve at i10broadwaycurve.com.
Happy New Year, good morning. My name is Mike Broomhead. I work over at KTAR 92.3 FM. I am so excited to be here on behalf of the Fiesta Sports Foundation. The Fiesta Bowl means a lot to this community, on the field, but most importantly, off the field. This game is so important to this community, and in just a couple of days, this entire week, thousands and thousands and thousands of people will be coming through this terminal to visit our city, to visit our community, and we are putting on such a great game and event that is going to be watched around the country, maybe even around the world. In just a few moments, right behind me, we are going to be putting up the two teams that are going to play in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl for a chance to play in the national championship game. So it is, fair enough. It is my honor to introduce the chair of the Fiesta Sports Foundation Board of Directors, a passionate supporter of college football and the community impact. Please welcome Judy Burness.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mike. It is so exciting to be here today. What a great day. Just last night, I was in New Orleans watching an incredible game to see who's going to come to play in our game, and what a game it was. So just think about the experience that we're going to have here. So we're so excited to have that experience here. We're so excited to welcome you all here. This is an organization that is a crown jewel of this community, the Fiesta Bowl. You all know it. We've been there many, many years. We love it. And we are going to see a great matchup this year. So I get to fly in and out of this airport a lot. But how much fun it was to walk off the plane this morning. I landed less than an hour ago. But to walk off the plane this morning and see the makeover with all of the Fiesta Sports Foundation memorabilia, the trophy, all of our yellow jackets. This is an incredible experience, and we are so excited to welcome everybody here today. In just a few days, actually probably today, fans are starting to pour into this airport and this community to celebrate this amazing game and to see who is going to be the winner and move on to the national championship. We're part of the CFP 12-team playoff, so whoever wins our game goes on to the championship. So that's the caliber that we have here. And when those teams take the field, it will put a huge spotlight on Arizona, a huge spotlight like the size of our trophy over there that you can all see. So we're excited to have you all here, and on behalf of the board of directors, the Yellow Jackets, our ambassadors, our volunteers, I have one thing to say. Let's go!
The next speaker started to work for the City of Phoenix in 2003, the same year when the Fiesta Bowl gave all of college football arguably the greatest game in history and most controversial, coming from a Miami Hurricane, in the history of the game of Miami versus Ohio State. As Phoenix's first ever major events administrator from 2015 to 2022, she led the events like the CFP National Championship, Final Four, Super Bowls. As Assistant Aviation Director, Chief Revenue Officer, she leads the Phoenix Airport System Revenue Strategy. Please welcome Roxanne Favors.
Good morning, thank you. Thank you, Judy and Mike. And I want to thank all of our colleagues at the Fiesta Bowl and Visit Phoenix that are here today. We're excited to be here today and to have a fantastic activation at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. It's amazing to see it come in and go up, especially that giant iconic trophy over there. I want to thank all the team members from the Fiesta Bowl and our aviation department that truly use their muscles to get that into this building for the thousands of college football fans visiting the Valley to come and enjoy it. We love to see these kind of fun and surprising activations here at the airport for our passengers and our employees, especially when the activation involves a hallmark Arizona event like the Fiesta Bowl. Welcoming crowds from major sporting events is in our DNA here at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The games and the related activities bring excited fans into town and are great for the airport, our airline and concession partners, and the economy of Phoenix, the Valley, and the whole state of Arizona. The Fiesta Bowl helped started that trend more than 50 years ago, and the game and the events surrounding it are always a highlight. We are proud that more than 100 aviation department family and employees and volunteering to be part of and participate in tomorrow's Fiesta Bowl parade in Central Phoenix. We're excited to be here and to see the teams move on in the brackets, and the Phoenix Sky Harbor staff, along with our concessionaires, our airline partners, are ready to welcome the teams and the thousands of visitors to the Valley for the game. Thank you.
Our next guest has done great work for the city of Phoenix to lift its profile on an international level. He's brought big issues, big sports events to the Valley since moving into his role as the president and CEO of Visit Phoenix. Ron Price has seen how tourism and sports interconnect for decades and in multiple cities. But I know that he knows how much better Phoenix is than any other market across the country. Please welcome Ron Price.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Judy, you were at the game last night.
Yeah.
I was on my couch last night. I want to talk about the game here today. I cannot believe the turnout that happened. And so very excited that we're going to have these two teams with us. Mike, you're right. We do these big events better than anyone else. So we're very fortunate to be a destination where these big events take place. I think we do it very well. And the fact that we get to be a semifinal game this year is going to be very special. Especially when you look at the teams that we have coming in. These are teams that travel. These are teams that the fans are going to be here because their teams are going to be making it to the national championship. So we're looking forward to a great turnout. I want to just say what a great job the Fiesta Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl Foundation has done. They're going to be rolling out the red carpet here. But it's more than that. It's the fact that they're in the community. They're raising funds to build a better community. And for all of us, the citizens here, we can't thank you enough. So let's all give a big round of applause for the Fiesta Bowl and all the Yellow Jackets here. So with that, we look forward to rolling out the red carpet, getting these teams here. It's going to be a fun week. These visitors aren't just coming here for the game, but they're going to be coming here and experiencing the destination. So we look forward to welcome them here. So with that, thank you all.
Our next speaker is someone I love to have on my show. He's one of my favorite guests, and it's because of his passion for college football, but also passion for making the community a better place. Since taking over as executive director and CEO of the organization, he's taken it to new heights, new football initiatives, record levels of giving in Arizona with Arizona's teachers through the Wishes for Teachers. He's led a brand of evolution at the Fiesta Sports Foundation to show all the organization does on, but especially off the field. It's my honor to introduce Eric Moses.
So we've been waiting for almost 4 weeks for these teams to emerge, and emerge they did. There were some great games yesterday. Judy got to see the folks down at the Sugar Bowl and still was able to get back here on time, which is quite a feat. And I was down at the Cotton Bowl seeing Miami surprise most of the college football world and advance to the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Not all of it. Mike wasn't surprised at all. Look, the road to the national championship runs through the Valley, and we're excited about that, to be able to host another semifinal here where the winner will advance to a national championship. You know, the economic impact that this game and the surrounding activities provide to the Valley is about $200 million, which is really significant for our hotel partners. Yeah, that's worth clapping for. Our hotel partners, our hospitality partners, obviously the airport and other businesses here locally. That's why these events are so important. But more importantly, as Mike alluded to, the Fiesta Sports Foundation really is about giving back to communities all throughout the state of Arizona. And every ticket that is purchased, every sponsorship, every donation that comes into our organization really helps to give back to this community and to support this community. And that's at the heart of what we do. As you can see from the yellow jackets and the red jackets around here, people are giving, as I like to say, their time, talent, and treasure to this organization to help support this state. And so we're so excited that everybody could be here to help us today. Phoenix Sky Harbor is the best place to announce these teams that are coming in here. And I want to thank the airport, the City of Phoenix, and Visit Phoenix for helping us to announce this today. I'm not going to belabor this because we want to get excited about the teams that are going to be coming in here. They're fans that are going to be pouring into the Valley and spending their money here in the Valley and enjoying our fantastic weather, which I can assure you is better than most of the places where these folks will be coming from. So I think we're going to get ready to announce and to slap the brackets on there so we can see who's there. If you have not bought tickets, hurry up, because they're going fast. This is going to be a fantastic game. Thank you all for being here. And without further ado, let's get some names on the bracket here.
It's all about the youth.
All right, and they're going to be facing from the SEC.
Bienvenidos a Phoenix en un minuto, más o menos. Estamos aquí frente a la escuela primaria Booker T. Washington, construida en 1928. La escuela está ubicada en 1201 East Jefferson Street. Esta es la primera escuela primaria para afroamericanos en Phoenix, un edificio de 2 pisos construido por $100,000 o casi $2 millones en la economía actual. Con una capacidad para 450 estudiantes, no solo sería un lugar de aprendizaje, sino también un punto de reunión para la comunidad afroamericana que veía la escuela como un símbolo de orgullo. La escuela cerraría en 1984 y el espacio sería reutilizado como oficinas para New Times y V Digital Service. El edificio sería añadido al registro de propiedades históricas de Phoenix en junio del 2005. Welcome to Phoenix in about a minute. Today we visit an amazing site in North Phoenix, the Deer Valley Petroglyph Preserve, a quarter-mile-long nature walk featuring petroglyphs and natural desert plants. The preserve has an incredible museum and gallery with exhibits like the Southwest Ceramics, Manos en Metates, the Agave, the Hedgepath Hills Historical Exhibit, and the Roosevelt Platform Mound Study. But the main attraction will always be the petroglyphs and the basalt boulders, more than 1,500 symbols full of history and storytelling from the indigenous cultures that lived here before us. So don't miss this amazing opportunity and visit this historical site right in your backyard.
Up until 1889, the majority of the water that was used by Phoenicians came from the actual original canal that went through town. In 1889, a man named John Gardner started the first city waterworks, which is where we're standing today. Water was delivered to this very spot at Verde Park by a redwood tunnel that extended for 30 miles to the east and the northeast. Part of the city waterworks in 1938 was this pump house. It was built with the intention of being an emergency pump house. Water has always been an important element of thriving in the Valley of the Sun. This pump house represents one of the few remaining structures that show how that water was transported in the early 20th century. And it's a wonderful piece of architecture here in the southwest corner of the Garfield Historic District that we can all continue to enjoy here at Verde Park.
Welcome to the Cesar Chavez Community Center, the City of Phoenix's newest recreation center here in the beautiful Levine Village. Come, I'll take you around. Over here, you will see the Cesar Chavez timeline. It's a great piece of work. As soon as you walk into the facility, you can see all the impact that Cesar Chavez has had in Arizona, and it's for you guys to see when you guys arrive. This here is our lovely gymnasium. It has basketball capacity, volleyball, pickleball. We have wonderful courts that are meant for youth and adult spaces. And this is also included in your membership when you register at phoenix.gov or at our front desk. Welcome to our multi-purpose room. This room is designed to have special events, meetings, take classes. It seats anywhere between 80 to 100 people and is reservable. This is our beautiful courtyard, along with lawn games where families can come and enjoy the beautiful Arizona weather. This space is also available to reserve for special occasions and special gatherings. And this is our beautiful teaching style kitchen that we have here at the Cesar Chavez Community Center. It is designed to teach classes here in our community. So if you're interested in cooking 101 or maybe baking, this might be a good class for you to come and take. We have stoves, refrigerators, microwaves, and I know this will be a great place for you to come and enjoy and learn to cook. And this is our wonderful game room space where it's designed for youth and adults to come hang out and engage in a friendly game of pool table, hockey, or foosball. This is also a great space for parents to come hang out while their children are taking classes here at our lovely community center. This is one of the amenities that is included in your membership here at the Cesar Chavez Community Center. And this is our beautiful upstairs fitness center that is designed with cardio machines, free weights, weight machines, and if fitness is one of your goals, this might be a place for you. Out here, we have this beautiful view of the Estrella Mountains, where while you're working out, you can have a great view here. This also has an outdoor space that is designed to take a class, maybe like an outdoor yoga or meditation class. Also a reservable space, so if you have a meeting and you'd like to enjoy the beautiful weather here in Laveen, this might be the spot for you. And this is our wonderful indoor walking track. So if you don't want to be outside, you want to get out of the sun for a little bit, you can come in here and take some laps. It is used to walk or run, and keep in mind 14 laps is 1 mile. To the side, you will see all of our Laveen historic photos. These photos date back to the 50s, and you will see some of the lovely traditions that still happen here in the Laveen Village, such as the barbecue parade and the Laveen parade.
In the city of Phoenix, there are over 60 high schools. Today, we are in the very first one, Phoenix Union High School. We're in the auditorium building on campus facing Van Buren, right near 7th Street. The high school opened in 1897 in a home, a huge mansion actually, that was built by the then Territorial Attorney General, a guy by the name of Clark Churchill. At its peak, Phoenix Union High School was the largest high school west of the Mississippi, with over 6,500 students on a campus that spread out for 18 acres, 4 city blocks, and had 9 different buildings. Notable people who have graduated from here include Barry Goldwater and Steve Allen, the comedian. Over the years, not only did it serve educational purposes, but this was the center of Phoenix entertainment, civic events, meetings, conferences, etc. Now, the Phoenix Union High School District sprung from this school. Even though it no longer serves the purpose of educating our high school students, many Phoenicians who attended here over the years still love to say the motto, "Fight on, Coyotes."
Bienvenidos a Phoenix en un minuto, más o menos. Estamos aquí frente al edificio de Phoenix Union High School, construido en 1912, localizados en 512 East Van Buren Street. Los 3 edificios principales fueron diseñados con un hermoso estilo neoclásico por Norman Marsh: el edificio de artes y ciencias domésticas, el auditorio y el corredor de ciencias. La escuela sería segregada de 1928 a 1954 y se mantendría en un estatus de minoría mayoritaria hasta que la escuela cerrara en 1982, luego de una declive en las inscripciones. Actualmente, los edificios son parte de la Universidad de Arizona. El 15 de julio de 1982 sería incluido en el Registro Nacional de Lugares Históricos y en diciembre de 1985 serían añadidos al Registro de Propiedades Históricas de Phoenix y se ajustaría en enero del 2003.
We all want to get to our destination safely, so be aware of everything happening around you whenever walking.
Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the February 4th, 2026 Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee. I'd like to introduce City Attorney Jennifer Vega. Ms. Vega, please explain the role of the public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meetings Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the subcommittee. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vega. I would also like to introduce our interpreter, Elsie Duarte, who will provide a brief announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Robinson. My name is Elsie Duarte, and I will be providing Spanish interpretation during today's Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee session. I will now take a moment to address our Spanish-speaking audience. Buenos días, mi nombre es Elsie Duarte y estaré interpretándole a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana durante esta sesión del Subcomité de Seguridad Pública y Justicia. Para escuchar la reunión en español presencialmente, favor de pasar por unos audífonos ubicados a la entrada de la sala de cámaras. Las personas registradas para hacer un comentario público sepan que podrán hablar libremente sin interrupciones durante el tiempo disponible. Sus comentarios serán interpretados al momento que usted termine de hablar. Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Duarte. Next item is a call to the public. Do we have Ms. Algarin on? Not yet? No. Okay, thank you. All right, item number 1 is approval of the Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee minutes from January 7th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes. Thank you very much for that. Item number 2 is an update on the work of the Fireworks Safety Task Force in efforts to reduce the use of illegal fireworks. We'll welcome Assistant City Manager Lori Bays, Assistant Fire Chief Justin Alexander, Lieutenant Brian Remza, Assistant Fire Marshal Eric Williams, and Deputy Communications Director Ashley Patton to the table. And I promised him I had math questions for them, so we'll start off with the square root of something.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. And as the team gets settled, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank them for the work that they've done. This task force was established a couple years ago. I had been hearing concerns from multiple council offices regarding complaints that they were receiving regarding fireworks and what we could do, what more we could do, especially given the constraints of state law to address illegal fireworks in our community. And so we established this task force. It's interdepartmental. We have multiple departments represented, as you can see, and we have had great progress on, within the parameters of the state law to provide some additional enforcement, to make sure that our inspections are as thorough as possible for fireworks vendors, and also to get that communication back and forth with our community regarding concerns that they're having and making sure that we're addressing those in as much as we can. And so we are going to have an update for you today, but I just really wanted to thank Chief Alexander, who's been a key leader on this team, as well as the rest of the team, and this is a good demonstration of what we can do when departments work together. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Chief Alexander.
Good morning. Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee, it is our pleasure to address you this morning to present on the progress and direction of the City of Phoenix Fireworks Task Force. With me today are Phoenix Police Lieutenant Brian Remza, Assistant Fire Marshal Eric Williams, and Deputy Communications Director Ashley Patton. Our presentation will cover the task force's background, mission, objectives, and strategy. The task force representatives at the table will discuss enforcement, education, emergency response, and our plans for 2026. The task force was formed due to an increase in fireworks-related complaints to council district offices and a rise in police and fire calls for service during the 4th of July and New Year's holidays. The task force brings together representatives from the city manager's office, communications office, prosecutor's office, and the police, fire, law, neighborhood services, parks, and recreation departments. Our mission is to protect public safety, reduce nuisances, and enhance health by reducing and ultimately eliminating illegal aerial fireworks within city limits. As we continue to address the dangers posed by fireworks in our community, we are applying the community risk reduction model to guide our efforts. This approach begins with collecting and analyzing data so that our operational planning and enforcement strategies are informed by real evidence. We are committed to enforcing existing fire code provisions that regulate the sale, possession, and use of fireworks, ensuring that public safety remains our highest priority. At the same time, we recognize the importance of education. Through coordinated outreach with our public information officers and the fire department's fire prevention section, we are working to inform residents about the laws in place and the very real risks associated with aerial fireworks. We also know that holiday celebrations bring a surge in calls for service. By planning ahead, we can respond more effectively to this increase and reduce the strain on our emergency resources. I'd like to now present Assistant Fire Marshal Eric Williams.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. It's important to note that the Phoenix Fire Code prohibits consumer fireworks. However, state law preempts and limits local jurisdictions from enforcing and permitting aspects regarding permits and use during specific dates listed in the Arizona revised statutes. As a result, in previous years, Fire Prevention only conducted inspections of sales sites whose quantities of fireworks required permitting in accordance with the state law, which was a small percentage. However, starting last July 4th and New Year's and expanding to all future fireworks seasons, Fire Prevention will inspect all permitted, identified, and potential fireworks sites to help validate that only legal, permissible consumer fireworks are being sold and done so safely in our community. This initiative resulted in more than 600 inspections last year. We did encounter a few locations where non-permissible fireworks were identified. These locations had an avenue to send the product back to the distributor and provide immediate removal of the product from the sales floor without confiscation. For the first time, Fire Prevention also conducted inspections after the holiday, an initiative grown through this task force. These post-season inspections are designed to help verify that fireworks are removed from businesses and tents in our community once the state law dates expire. A few sites were found last July 4th and New Year's to have products still on sale after these dates, and through education and enforcement, those items were immediately removed. Starting this New Year's holiday, Fire Prevention also implemented new unscheduled and unannounced pop-in inspections of retail locations to identify if fireworks sales were occurring before the allowed sales dates. Through these new inspections, we discovered some fireworks sales occurring prior to the dates, and again, through education and enforcement, the product was removed from the sales floor until the December 10th sales date. This slide also highlights the number of permitted public fireworks shows that occurred in Phoenix on or around the July 4th holiday that our community could attend, along with the numbers of permits issued to the larger sales sites from July 4th and New Year's. Fire Prevention also attended more than two dozen block watch and community meetings last year to bring the messaging of fireworks safety to our neighborhoods. This was also an opportunity for our community members to ask great questions and understand the fireworks laws and how the city is working to deliver the safety message and reduce the harmful effects during these celebratory seasons. And lastly, we're taking advantage of these hundreds of inspections in our community by leaving the businesses with a stack of safety brochures in both English and Spanish for their customers. These brochures provide information as to where fireworks are legal or what fireworks are legal, what types are allowed, a QR code to the city's Celebrate Safely website, along with safety tips when using and disposing of fireworks. And as a result of the Fireworks Task Force meetings, this last New Year's season, fire inspectors also started to provide inspected sites with the Phoenix Police Department's Shannon's Law flyer to raise awareness of the law and dangers of celebratory gunfire, which you'll hear about later in this presentation. With that, I would like to turn it over to Deputy Communications Director Ashley Patton.
Thank you, Assistant Fire Marshal Williams, and good morning, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee. To ensure that the community was aware of all of the work that the task force was doing, several communications professionals from across the organization came together to create a coordinated, multimedia, multi-platform, and bilingual English and Spanish education campaign titled Celebrate Safely. The Celebrate Safely campaign had two goals. First, to raise awareness about fireworks safety and legalities, and second, to reduce firework-related incidents such as fires and injuries. We developed a robust strategy to maximize the campaign's effectiveness. First, to achieve our goals, we knew collaboration would be key. We engaged several stakeholders whose voices were integral to sharing this information with the community, including the mayor and city council, city departments including fire, police, parks and recreation, neighborhood services, public works, and the communications office, and nonprofit partners including the Arizona Burn Foundation, Arizona Humane Society, and Valleywise Health. We also worked with the Maricopa Association of Governments, or MAG, to spread awareness about the environmental impacts of fireworks. We also worked closely with local vendors or retailers of consumer fireworks to help ensure messaging got directly to those purchasing fireworks. Next, working with all of these partners, we aligned message points. We organized media events, and we created and published materials. So together, with all of those stakeholders working in lockstep to amplify our outreach, we focused on the following message themes for our campaign materials. Only ground-based fireworks are legal. Enforcement efforts are now enhanced as part of the task force. We shared information about proper fireworks disposal, like soaking used fireworks for 24 hours before disposal and the dangers of not doing so. We emphasized that if you use fireworks, it is essential to keep a safe distance from homes, dry brush, and crowds. We encouraged residents to leave it to the professionals and attend fireworks events displays. During the 4th of July, we worked with the Parks Department to promote city-hosted fireworks events. We shared how to report illegal fireworks. Working with MAG, we provided information about how consumer fireworks are bad for our environment and result in poor air quality. Working with the Humane Society, we emphasized the importance of keeping pets safe and indoors. And especially around New Year's Eve, we heightened messaging around celebratory gunfire and Shannon's Law. Next, I'd like to share the channels in which those messages were shared. Celebrate Safely was a multimedia and bilingual initiative, so those message points could be found across a variety of communications in both English and Spanish. We hosted large media events at the Fire Training Academy to ensure our partners in traditional media, like broadcast, print, and radio, had the audio and visual resources to amplify our messages. This resulted in earned media coverage from nearly every local media outlet. We secured coverage in multiple newsletters with robust distribution. A few examples include the Phoenix at Your Service or PAYS newsletter, which city residents that use our water or solid waste customers receive in their bill each month, and the Library Services Department newsletter, which cardholders receive. Several council members also shared information in their newsletters, which amplified our outreach, which was greatly appreciated. Additionally, we placed Celebrate Safely messaging on several billboards throughout Phoenix, including along the I-17, I-10, and at the Legends or Chase Field digital displays. We also created and printed thousands of educational pamphlets in English and Spanish. These were distributed through fire prevention directly to vendors and consumers. And community outreach was strategically conducted by both fire prevention and by police. Here's a photo of one of those billboards alongside Chase Field. We also told the story ourselves through digital media across various social media platforms with a strategic approach deployed for each channel. This included a first ever for the city. We leveraged the popular social media site Reddit to host an Ask Me Anything session where residents could ask experts questions about fireworks. The Ask Me Anything session alone resulted in 37,000 views and 140 comments and an overall highly engaging and productive dialogue with residents. This innovative tactic demonstrates Phoenix's leadership in digital engagement and will help with search engine optimization, ensuring the community has the correct, verified information from the official source. On Phoenix.gov, we created a landing page for the campaign, phoenix.gov/celebratesafely, which received thousands of page views and served as a central resource with information from all task force departments and community partners. Next, I would like to walk through a sampling of the content produced for the Celebrate Safely campaign. Here are a few graphic elements from the first phase of the campaign over the 4th of July to give you a general picture of the messaging. These next examples showcase the campaign's cross-department collaboration. During the 4th of July, we encouraged residents to leave fireworks to the pros and attend one of the free events held at city parks. These included After Dark in the Park in District 1, Light Up the Sky in District 5, and the Fabulous Phoenix 4th in District 4. These videos were posted just before the holiday, so focused on the events on July 3rd and 4th. Here is the English version.
This 4th of July, skip the backyard risks and join us for free and safe events all across Phoenix.
Join the Parks and Recreation Department in 2 special events, July 3rd at the American Family Field and July 4th at Steele Indian School Park.
And the Spanish.
Este 4 de julio, evita los riesgos. Y los invitamos para que los acompañen para celebraciones por todo Phoenix.
El Departamento de Parques y Recreación los invita a ustedes a 2 eventos muy especiales. El 3 de julio en American Family Field y el 4 de julio aquí en el Parque Steele Indian School Park.
As we get the slides back up here, the next slide will show Councilwoman Guardado was a great support in promoting Light Up the Sky in District 5 at the American Family Fields, and that was a great opportunity for residents to see fireworks done safely by professionals. Here's a photo of her with the Phoenix Fire Department's Spanish media liaison. They were on site spreading fireworks safety messaging and previewing the event for members of the media. And there's also a few examples here of the promotion across the city's social media platforms. After Dark in the Park at Deer Valley Park in District 1 offered another alternative to DIY fireworks for residents, touting the city's first drone light show. A few of the displays are pictured here. It is worth noting that this event won the Blue Sky Award from Valley Metro as part of the Clean Air Campaign Awards, so congratulations to Councilwoman O'Brien and the Parks team. We also shared videos of this innovative event across the city's social media pages, including our YouTube channel. Between the 4th of July and New Year's Eve, the team was hard at work to enhance our branding and improve messaging reach. We created this emblem and a variety of deliverables, including dozens of graphics, printed materials, and engaging videos. Here's an example of something in English that we created in advance of the New Year's holiday. And the next slide will show Spanish. We also ramped up our video content around the New Year's holiday with dozens of productions highlighting our key messages. Here are 2 examples. The video on the left showcases general fireworks safety messaging, and the video on the right details legalities. Both videos were captured on site at our media event, where we leveraged a creative and festive approach to earn additional coverage.
Let's talk about fireworks. Legal sale of fireworks, but you got to make sure they're out. Put them in a bucket of water. Make sure you have a hose when you buy it. And remember, children don't use fireworks by themselves. Don't mix alcohol and fireworks. Let's have a safe and happy holiday season.
I'm Lieutenant Brian Rimza with the Phoenix Police Department's Violent Crimes Bureau. It's important for you to celebrate safely during the upcoming holiday season. It's never okay to celebrate with gunfire. You need to know that celebratory gunfire is a felony and punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Additionally, it's important that you know only to use permissible use fireworks and never use prohibited use fireworks. They can be used December 26th through January 4th. It's important for you to know the difference between permissible and prohibited use fireworks. Please go to phoenix.gov and celebrate safely for more information on what fireworks are legal versus not legal.
And the last example I'd like to show is one of our many partnerships in action. We shared messaging from MAG's Fireworks Are Breathtaking campaign, pictured here, as part of our campaign and created materials with their experts, including this video.
So on New Year's Day, people woke up to the worst air quality in the nation, and that was primarily due to our use of consumer fireworks. We have a couple things going against us here in the Valley. We have so many people, and they love to celebrate with consumer fireworks, but we have the temperature inversion, which is that layer of warm air on top that traps all that smoke. EPA graded the air as hazardous on New Year's Day, which meant that anybody who was outside could experience health effects. I don't think people realize how dramatic the air quality was. The concentrations were worse than what many people experienced in the LA wildfires, for example. Worse to smoking cigarettes at times. So this was really very hazardous conditions. Some of the things that make fireworks beautiful are metals. That causes the pretty colors of fireworks. But unfortunately, those are also toxic. I feel like, hey, it's one day a year. What's the harm? But it really is, especially for those who might have respiratory issues or pre-existing conditions. Those people are even more vulnerable. So I think success would be awareness, and that people would think about maybe celebrating in a different way on New Year's Eve.
Those examples were just a small sampling of the Celebrate Safely campaign. Our efforts on social media included more than 190 posts, earning nearly 2 million impressions or views. We wanted to measure the campaign's effectiveness in reaching residents, so we leveraged ZenCity, a community engagement software, to assess how these messages were received. ZenCity's analysis demonstrated that the community appreciated the city's safety messaging and free event options, as well as our safety goals, but the community has continued concerns about enforcement and neighborhood risks. This signals an opportunity for us to strengthen our messaging in the future and continue this important work through an even more robust Celebrate Safely campaign next holiday season. Now I will pass it to Lieutenant Brian Rimza to share more about the police department's community engagement efforts.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee. It is my pleasure to discuss the police department's support of the City of Phoenix Fireworks Task Force. I'd first like to thank Chief Alexander and his team for a collaborative partnership to ensure everyone celebrates safely. The fireworks educational campaign began in June of 2025. The police department focused on 3 core areas: community engagement, community connect, and dedicated staffing. Community engagement focused on officers connecting with communities with the highest levels of calls, attending community meetings, distribution of educational flyers, and social media posting. Community Connect is a customer engagement software that allows us to communicate with the community through a digital platform. Community Connect provided callers with a link to the city's fireworks educational platform. Dedicated staffing began on July 3rd and 4th. 2 officers in each precinct were assigned to respond to fireworks calls for service. Additional training was provided to all officers to include an e-learning video explaining our educational campaign and the law. A dedicated fireworks radio code was created for data tracking. Community engagement began several weeks prior to the 4th of July and New Year's. This slide shows the number of community contacts made leading up to the 4th of July and New Year's holiday. Utilizing hotspot maps from previous years, community action officers contacted residents within those areas to educate them. Along with personal contacts, the CAOs in all 7 precincts attended numerous community events. Leading up to the 4th of July, there were nearly 1,500 contacts. Leading up to New Year's, there were nearly 3,000 contacts. Each contact allowed for one-on-one conversation. Additionally, CAOs and our Public Affairs Bureau distributed educational pamphlets via email and social media. In addition to the community engagement, we educated patrol officers on their response and enforcement efforts. Mandatory staffing was in place on New Year's Eve. Community Connect provided callers with a link providing information on fireworks and celebratory gunfire. This slide shows the fireworks calls for service received during the 4th of July by the police department over the last 4 years. 2025 numbers are much higher due to the creation of a dedicated fireworks radio code and increased educational efforts. Traditionally, fireworks calls for service were categorized as a city ordinance offense, which encompasses a variety of call types and likely led to underreporting. The creation of a specific radio code allowed us to accurately track fireworks calls for service to ensure we are focusing our efforts in the right areas. As we transitioned into New Year's, the police department focused not only on fireworks, but also on celebratory gunfire. Celebratory gunfire education and enforcement is focused around Shannon's Law. Shannon's Law is named after Shannon Smith, a 14-year-old Phoenix girl who was killed by a stray bullet in June of 1999. Violating Shannon's Law is a Class 6 felony. Community engagement efforts began in early December. Each precinct distributed informational flyers to the community. In addition to the community engagement, we educated patrol officers on their response to celebratory gunfire and enforcement efforts. Mandatory staffing was in place on New Year's Eve. Community Connect provided callers with a link providing information on celebratory gunfire. During the New Year's holiday, there were 2 arrests made for celebratory gunfire, and there are additional cases being investigated. This slide shows the comparison between fireworks calls for service and celebratory gunfire over the New Year's holiday for the past 4 years. We saw a significant increase in fireworks calls for service due to the educational campaign and designated radio code allowing for easier tracking. The police department traditionally receives more calls for service related to celebratory gunfire over the New Year's holiday. New Year's Eve is the most active date for celebratory gunfire in the city. Now I'll turn the presentation back over to Chief Alexander.
This slide shows the categories of calls used to analyze the impacts our efforts have had on the fire department's emergency response over the last year's July 4th and New Year's holidays within the city of Phoenix. Data from computer-aided dispatch incidents and fire investigation reports was reviewed for general fire activity, as well as those incidents that specifically indicated fireworks. General fire activity included nature codes in line with National Fire Protection Association reported trends from their 2020 publication to include nuisance fires, primarily debris and dumpsters, which is why much of our public messaging and education focused on these areas. For example, last year, the Phoenix Fire Investigation Task Force was dispatched on 5 fire incidents between 10 p.m. and midnight on the 4th of July, 3 house fires and 2 debris fires. 2 incidents specifically stated fireworks were the source of ignition, while the remaining incidents had multiple potential ignition sources in the area of origin, including fireworks. Here's a graphic illustration and the progress made during the past several 4th of July holidays. In 2024, we saw a significant reduction of approximately 38% in nuisance fire activity on 4th of July. Through 2025, we continue to see a reduction of around 18%. Combined, this is a 49% reduction over 2 years. Using similar metrics, we see that over the past 2 New Year's holidays, there has been a 44% reduction in calls for service. For our next steps, as we move forward, the task force will continue meeting regularly to plan fireworks education and risk reduction initiatives. To ensure a unified presence and consistent messaging across the valley, the task force continues to develop and strengthen regional partnerships. A key collaboration is with Maricopa Association of Governments, which is addressing the negative health effects of fireworks and their impact on air quality during New Year's holiday season in particular. Together, we will continue to deliver joint messaging through their Fireworks Are Breathtaking consumer fireworks education and awareness campaign. Additionally, our legal team is reviewing potential city code amendments to align local language with state law, thereby strengthening enforcement capabilities. Thank you for your time and support, and we welcome any questions you may have for our panel.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe Councilman Waring has the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess it's page 3, slide 5 on my sheet. You talk about enforcement, you have the dates, the state law, and so forth. So I have it in my own neighborhood, every July 4th, every New Year's, not sometimes on Christmas. I always worry about my roof. Somebody's gonna set fire to my roof, because the first year, it wasn't an issue in my old neighborhood, but 14 years ago when I bought the new house, which isn't new anymore, I guess, I thought, is there some raging gun battle going on? And I realized, oh, that's fireworks, because that's what it sounded like. It varies year to year, but every year there's pop, pop, pops, dog gets upset. Sometimes it'll wake us up, depending on what it is. It usually starts maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And we also get complaints at the office for the same thing I'm hearing. But refresh my memory, state law, you can do that as long as they're on the ground. Is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, that is correct. If
Yeah.
they are ground-based fireworks, they are legal.
So people
Or
who call
I
me-
should say they're permissible. They're legal by state law, and they're permissible because of the preemption within the city.
Yeah. So if I'm still up, I'll go out and check. So there are some in the air too, but then I hear pops, I don't see anything, so I assume those are either on the ground or they're lower than the tree line. But for the people who write me, it sounds like we're accurately saying, we could send officers out, but there's a good chance this is going to be a legal activity because of state law, correct? If it's within these dates, basically New Year's, Christmas, and July 4th.
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, that is correct. That is legally permissible within the city of Phoenix during those times. What we are trying to do as a task force is look for ways to leverage, especially our enforcement, our inspections, and all of our activities to try and reduce those amounts. And I think that the health messaging is especially promising than some of the other messaging. If we can help folks understand the repercussions of even the ground-based fireworks, I think that that's something that we hope that the community will respond to, and hopefully we can lessen the use of even the ground-based fireworks.
I appreciate that. And yes, lessening the use, legal or not, lessens the risk of fires and, like you said, the air quality and so forth. I'm as someone who, the three of us at least, I don't want to speak for what they think about it, but we all have to advertise to wind up sitting up here. So we're all sort of in the marketing department of our own little shops in a way. So it gives me a more jaundiced view of what works and what doesn't. There have been times my opponents have been doing things and my wife's been upset. I'm like, no, it's great. Why is it great? Because they're wasting their money. That's not going to work as an attack. So, sometimes I have a more nuanced view of this. I wasn't sure. Maybe you have some metrics. Like telling people about air quality who are risking blowing off their hands, rolling explosives on the ground by their house. I think you might be overestimating a little bit the impact that's going to have. Maybe that's me. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but okay. I guess maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if I'd have focused on that, but you seem like you focused on that as a good thing. The focusing on the Shannon's Law, people complain about speeding. I pointed out we've got a lot fewer officers out there. People have picked up on that. So as recently as this morning and pretty much every morning, I'll encounter at least a couple of people going 70 and a 40. And I'll get people complaining. And they'll say, maybe if you put up more signs. Like maybe the person going 70 and a 40 doesn't know they're not supposed to be going 70 and a 40. Maybe if we reminded them, they'd be like, oh, right, my bad. No, they're not. I think most people probably know shooting a gun off in the air just for kicks. So I really think probably tougher penalties and more officers out in the field is probably the answer to that. I'm glad that it sounds like a couple people are being prosecuted this year, but I'm gonna have to flip to that slide to get the number, but there were a lot more incidences, correct? I mean, 2 was a small, and that's not a criticism, it's a big city. We got 5,000 miles of streets. It's a lot of area for you guys to cover. Not every officer's working at the same time. We got fewer officers than we used to. So you're not gonna catch everybody who's shooting a gun off in the air, but making examples out of fools who are doing that is probably the way to go. Just my opinion, because you did have somebody get killed, maybe more than somebody's, but it's named after somebody who got killed a few years ago. I mean, you can do all the videos you want. I'm not sure the people you're trying to target, the people who are gonna see that video probably aren't the ones who are shooting the guns off in the air. The people going to the HOA meeting and the coffee with a cop and so forth, I think that's less likely. I'm just guessing. So, you know, I just, at some point, I don't know, that's so random. I don't even know how you concentrate on that. But you had, I think, a couple hundred incidences. I could flip and find out. And you've got maybe a handful of prosecutions every year. Is that basically true, Lieutenant?
Yes, that's true. We had 2 arrests.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack. I mean, it's like the random speeders. When you catch them, you got to do something harsh so that word might spread, because they could kill somebody. I was happy to hear, I was a little confused, I'm sure it's my fault, on the, I guess they're both, it's page 15 on my thing, but slide 29 and 30. The 49% reduction, the 44% reduction. So was that fireworks related incidences or all fires during those time periods?
Those are, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, those are all categorized as fires likely to be caused by firework activity.
I mean, it's a lot. So my fears about my own roof are not wrong. The people writing me, and every year it's quite a few. I wish there was more, frankly, we could do, but again, state law, we got to follow state law, so we can't prosecute people for doing something that's a legal activity. And I assume maybe, well, I don't know, it might be a question for both of you. You know, I assume attaching someone, so someone sets my roof on fire, shooting off a firework, do we ever catch anybody doing that? I mean, they shoot it off down the street, lands on my roof, sets the roof on fire. Like, who owns that? Anybody? I assume probably not.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, every fire that is a significant fire is investigated through the City of Phoenix Arson Investigation Task Force, or Fire Investigation Task Force. And as I noted as an example in the presentation, back in July of 2025, there were 2 that we were able to definitively classify as being human-caused or arson, or intentionally caused through fireworks activity.
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt though, my question is more, did you catch the actual person who did it, and did they get prosecuted
in one
for,
of the cases,
burning down somebody's house?
Without talking about specific investigations, I can tell you that one of them, an individual, there were charges pressed in one of those cases.
So again, this is not a criticism of your work or anything. It's just, it's so random. It's not like you could stake out an intersection knowing that's where the fires are going to be. There's no way to do that. You know, that's 1 out of a lot, depending on what year we're talking about. It's just hard. So I guess I would suggest, again, if someone gets caught, upping the penalties might be the way to go. I harp on this one, I guess, because it's mine. I was told by the experts increasing the penalties on DUIs would never work. Expert opinion has come under fire in recent years for a good reason. A lot of times they're just flat wrong. I had judges telling me that'll never work. Oh, it worked. Fatalities and injuries plummeted almost immediately as soon as my bills went into effect. It's ticked up in recent years, but of course, there's more people here, there's more mileage, so it's not apples to apples. But it was a dramatic, much better than I anticipated, frankly, drop. It had been done in other countries. What did we do? We upped the fines and the penalties. And that dramatically impacted the problem. We did have a benefit, though, which is my point in this. You've got your videos and so forth. I don't know. Sorry, city website, kind of convoluted mess. I'm glad I don't look at it. I'm glad I can ask Christine, hey, what's going on at the city? Instead of actually trying to wade through it myself. Finding that stuff is going to be hard. I think you said, Lieutenant, 1,700 people or something went to community meetings, and that's great. There's 1.7 million people in Phoenix, plus all the visitors and people who are here on New Year's who don't live here and might want to set up fireworks and Christmas and so forth. So it's a lot. We had law firms, though, about the DUIs to sort of promote our message. They instantly were up on ESPN saying, hey, did you hear? Like, there were warnings being flashed all the time. I mean, you had some of that with Shannon's law, and so you've had a drop. have probably impacted, maybe looking at this, maybe 100 fewer kind of over time. That might be a little extreme, but you know, it's definitely a drop, and that's great. There's been a drop in the number of fires, and that's great. But if there's some way to leverage, I hate to say it, some tragedy and get it out there so it is a focus, just like we had people who had lost loved ones to DUIs come into the Senate and testifying, getting the bills through, and then kind of putting them on TV, and the lawyers took it from there with their advertising. It got the word out. You're really rolling the dice. You're not just going to ruin somebody else's life, you're going to ruin your own. Because if we catch you, it's going to be bad. I would argue a more focus on that. And the videos are fine. I'm not disparaging or making fun or anything else. I just don't know putting out videos about it might damage your lungs. I think we're dealing here, if you're shooting a gun off like that, or you know, you're rolling the fireworks around, you kind of know you're not supposed to be doing it, you're shooting them up in the air. The safety of your lungs 20 years hence might not be top of mind, my guess. So just a little more focused on the here and now. Like, you want to spend 10 years in jail for burning down? Because for me, that would be, you're burning my house down. That's a pretty serious thing. And that's what the people who write me are concerned about. And we really can't do anything about the law because it's a state law. So most of the activities we're talking about are probably legal, but the consequences, if it goes wrong, are not. Just something to think about. It's probably just me spouting off, but I do have to take my messaging out to people to keep sitting up here, and I just kind of know what might work and what's had success in the past in the same kind of public safety realm, where the crimes are not necessarily be committed by hardened criminals who are longtime drug dealers or serial killers. It's people who have normal jobs and so forth who are kind of making some decisions that aren't the best. You got to try to reach them. Breaking through from all the clutter on social media and so forth, that's tough. Advertisers spend millions doing that, billions, and sometimes they can't do it. Candidates too, I might add. So thank you for indulging me,
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, if I may just make one addition to, and emphasize a point that Chief Alexander made in the presentation, because I think it speaks to what Councilman Waring is expressing some concern about. One of our next steps is to provide the council with some potential amendments to the code to strengthen our position as it relates to enforcement of these issues. And so, you know, hopefully you'll be pleased to hear about that as we bring it forward in council briefings, and then eventually back to this subcommittee and hopefully to the full council for approval. But one of the things that we're actually looking at are those penalties, and can we emphasize the importance of these code restrictions in order to make those very points to the community, that this is important, and if you are going to break these laws, then there are going to be significant consequences for it. So those are the things that we'll be bringing back to you, in addition to some additional code recommendations. And again, we'll be briefing council on those things, and then bringing it back to this subcommittee for a recommendation to the full council. So more discussion on this as the work of the task force continues.
And can I add on to that, Mr. Chair? I mean, that's great. More robust, the better. One thing about the outreach, though, and you're probably, I'm guessing, the 1,700, I don't remember you specifically saying, but, you know, I've been to coffees with a cop. I've been to neighborhood meetings with police for block watches, and obviously HOA meetings. You know, those are the folks, particularly in a district like District 2, where a ton of, I'm not in one personally, but, you know, HOAs, like, they can get the message out. They can also impose their own discipline, piggybacking on what the city's doing. Somehow you gotta be able to leverage the message. We'll never be able to build an ad campaign that's gonna reach, you know, 1,700, I'm not even smart enough to do the math of what that is as a percentage of 1.7 million. To reach everybody, particularly, you know, you're probably talking a lot of younger people, I'm guessing, using these. That's the way it was when I was a kid. Not my thing, but I had friends who would do it. You know, I definitely think you're gonna have to really get other people to do the work for you. There aren't enough officers to go door to door to tell people, hey, this is a bad idea, or you gotta be really cautious, or, hey, we've got these events you might wanna go to instead, which is a good idea. I just don't know that the person who's shooting off fireworks in my neighborhood is like, oh, I'm gonna drive somewhere. They know that that's out there, I think. They're just choosing to do it a different way, and it's pretty dangerous. Bottom line, your statistics, Chief, tell that tale, no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know what I expected necessarily, but it's a lot of fires that it sounds like are basically attributed to this activity. And that's just a shame. You know, a lot of people, you burn down their house, they're done. What should be the penalty for that? And I think we should emphasize that in our advertising. Hopefully what Lori brings back will. Now I'm done.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to talk a little bit about the enforcement aspect related to your inspections of the consumer fireworks, the stores, the tents. And one of your bullet points is, and I appreciate that we're doing those inspections. Thank you so much. All the work that you are doing to make a difference in this area. As a councilwoman over the last nearly 5 years, this is probably one of the hottest topics, as you all know, which is why we're here. However, it says when you identified non-permissible fireworks, some were confiscated, but some were immediately removed from sales and sent back to legal out-of-state distributors. So I have a couple of questions there. When did how many were confiscated, if you have that information? How many vendors or retail stores were not in compliance? 2, how many got to have them back or you sent them back? And then how did you discern when you were going to confiscate them versus return them?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, Councilwoman O'Brien. So we did not confiscate any this last year. What we did identify is, I don't have the number, I apologize, is approximately 6 to a dozen locations had non-permissible fireworks. In those situations, they received them from a national distributor. These situations where we found these non-permissible were larger retail stores that have an avenue to send unsold product back at the end of the season, and also product that was inadvertently sent to them. So Arizona does not allow aerial shells, however some of our neighboring states do. So these national distributors send pallets of fireworks to these stores to be put on sale. For example, a big box store may have 20 pallets of fireworks during the July 4th season. There is a time where 1 or 2 of those pallets or a product on that pallet was not intended for Arizona and is in violation of state law. What we do is, rather than confiscating that, we have them remove it from the sales floor, isolate it in the back room, and either send it back immediately or it goes back with their product that's unsold as required by state law to ensure we get it off the sales floor. If we do have a situation where we had a convenience store or an individual who may have purchased the fireworks out of the back of a rental vehicle, which we've seen people buying them on the street and reselling them, in those situations we would not have a distributor to send them back legally to. We would confiscate those at that time.
So then I appreciate that, because I don't necessarily want to punish our retailers for mistakes that are someone else's mistakes. However, it should be their obligation to know what is and isn't permissible to sell in the state that they are operating in. So are you tracking those retailers so that if this year it was retailer A, B, and C that received those, had them out for sale, and you said, yeah, you can't sell these, and then they get to send them back. But now you go next year or the next year, and retailers A, B, and C, the same ones, are back on your naughty list, so to speak. How will that be handled? And are we tracking that? And will you be able to tell that this is a retailer's second or third strike?
Yes, Councilwoman O'Brien, we are tracking that. We have advised both the retailers, their corporate offices, if there's a corporate office. We've also reached out to the fireworks distributors. There's only about 3 national distributors in the nation that distribute fireworks to all the retail locations. We've also advised them that if we do find these items at the stores again, we will move into a confiscation phase. This was education. We have the path to get it out of our community and back to the distributor. However, if it continues to happen, we would take enforcement and confiscation at that time. So we're working, again, both with the sales location and the national distributors to help them clean their process up.
So what I think I heard you say is the first time, shame on you. The second time, it's shame on me, shame on you. You know what I'm trying to say. You only get one oops. Correct. And we will let you have your product back. So the second time we confiscate it, what other penalty is there besides confiscating the product?
So in accordance with the Phoenix Fire Code, sales of illegal fireworks is either a civil citation or a Class 1 misdemeanor criminal, depending on how it's prosecuted. The penalty is confiscation, obviously. We would issue a citation. It's either a $500 to $2,500 fine. If it is taken criminally, it could be up to 6-month imprisonment. And that would go towards the responsible party, which is a challenge sometimes when you deal with corporations. If it's a smaller store, you have an individual that brought the product in, is selling it, obviously we're not going to charge the store manager who is just working that shift. So it's a little more complicated with corporations, but we will issue citations when we have a responsible party.
Okay, well, I do look forward to getting my briefing about how you intend to or would like to recommend changes to the ordinances. I hope we will look at penalties and both for our businesses. I do think we need to lead with education and provide opportunities as you have been doing, but I also want to know, how do we make those who don't want to play by the rules pay the price, because it is making our community pay a price. Our community members are up all night, or God forbid, have tragedies occur because of others. The air quality is a whole nother conversation. I'm glad that you're partnering with MAG about that. I'm, again, really thankful to you, Assistant City Manager Lori Bays, and Fire Department, the Police Department, and Communications Office for coming together, for your hard work on this over the last 2 years. This Fireworks Safety Task Force is really important to us. Your numbers reflect that the work you're doing is making a difference, given a 50% reduction in the fireworks-related calls at 4th of July, 44% at New Year's. You all know the job isn't finished, and we know that these illegal fireworks are still disrupting our neighborhoods. They're traumatizing pets and vulnerable residents, and as we know, seriously impacting our air quality. I appreciate that you all also seem to know that moving forward, we need to build on all the good work. So please continue to do that. I hope you will take seriously our comments about how do we use penalties when it is the right time. I love education, I love information, I love alternatives, but sometimes there need to be penalties for those who don't want to follow those rules. We've shown real progress here, and I look forward to us continuing to make our holidays safer, having healthier air, and making sure we have more peaceful neighborhoods during our holidays. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for the presentation. The information is invaluable. Thank you for all your hard work. So thank you very much. Normally, the next item will be item number 3, but we're going to push that for a moment. Councilwoman Guardado is held up at the state capitol and has asked that we hold that till the end. So what is listed as item number 4, an update on the work and recommendations of the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. Human Services Director Jacqueline Edwards will come up to the table, and Commander Steve Martos as well.
Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee, I also want to introduce Assistant Director Tracy Hall, who is part of the presentation as well for Human Services.
Welcome, Tracy. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the subcommittee. I am Jacqueline Edwards, the Director for the Human Services Department, Assistant Human Services Director Tracy Hall, and Police Commander Steve Martos joins me today to present the 2025 Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team Report. We will be reviewing what domestic violence is, both national and city statistics related to DV, an overview of the Phoenix Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team, And as a follow-up to January 2025's Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team report that we shared here at Subcommittee, we will be sharing updates on the status of those recommendations. Then we will provide both case information and recommendations on the 2025 Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team report. It is important to begin with a clear understanding of how domestic violence is defined. It is a pattern of abuse in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over another intimate partner. This behavior includes physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological, technological actions or threats, or other patterns of coercive behavior. Each year, over 10 million adults experience domestic violence. 41% of women and 26% of men have experienced some form of domestic violence in their life. Based on the 2024 City of Phoenix Police Department's Domestic Violence Statistical Report, PD's domestic violence calls for service totaled 33,408, and domestic violence incident reports totaled 23,889. In 2024, assaults were documented as the highest form of reported domestic violence incidents to Phoenix police. Also worth noting, 35 cases were classified as stalking under the domestic violence crime types. This is important as this year's case does involve stalking. In the City of Phoenix, the most common relationship between abuser and victim in 2024 was among unmarried persons. And the most used weapon during domestic violence incidents was physical force. This is defined as the use of hands, fists, or feet to assault the victim. At the Phoenix Family Advocacy Center, we support the victims of domestic violence. Our partner, Child Help, assisted 4,822 children last year. The Human Services Department Victim Services Division served nearly 4,000 adults in 2025. Over 15,600 individualized services, such as orders of protection, connection to shelter, and linkages to other services and agencies, were provided to victims. Additionally, 785 medical examination referrals were made to the on-site partner, Honor Health. The Phoenix Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team, also known as DVFRT, was created in 2006 after the passage of a new state statute. The mission and purpose of the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team is to examine domestic violence fatality and near fatality incidents in order to improve our understanding of the dynamics of such incidents and provide concrete recommendations to improve system responses to domestic violence. The Phoenix DVFRT is comprised of staff from various city departments and representatives from external organizations in the fields of criminal justice, domestic violence, advocacy, healthcare, and academia. It is chaired by Assistant Human Services Director Tracy Hall and Phoenix Police Family Investigations Bureau Commander Steve Martos. The DVFRT made 5 recommendations as a result of the 2024 case review. We shared this case information in January of 2025. The following are the status updates on each of those recommendations. The first recommendation was for the Phoenix Police and Fire Departments to establish protocols for Crisis Response Team, CRT, responses to domestic violence calls. The updates on this are Phoenix patrol and investigation officers on the scene now provide dispatch and fire contact information and also assist with safety concerns from CRT personnel. The Police Department's Family Investigations Bureau has updated their protocol when responding to investigate domestic violence crimes to now include the response of CRT when victims or witnesses are on the scene. Dispatch has been informed not to cancel these calls. And also, the fire department has confirmed that Phoenix Police must be present on scene for the CRT to respond to DV calls. The second recommendation was for medical providers to create protocols for medical follow-up in the weeks after victimization. Honor Health is now conducting follow-up phone calls to patients and tracking the calls on a spreadsheet. Follow-up conversations with patients are also being documented in their case notes. The next recommendation was for the fire department to provide strangulation training for paramedics and emergency medical technicians. The Phoenix Fire Department does now provide comprehensive initial paramedic training that includes clinical assessment and management of patients involved in domestic violence, airway trauma, and injuries related to strangulation and hangings. The fire department is also providing ongoing department-wide training and continuing education focused on adult and pediatric trauma, including the recognition and management of airway compromise and obstructed breathing. Additionally, the department has protocols in place for EMTs and paramedics to seek medical direction on high-risk refusals. The fourth recommendation was for the Human Services and Police Departments to amend data collection protocol to include strangulation and impeded breathing. Phoenix PD implemented a new department-wide records management system in the fall of 2025. A drop-down category specifically for strangulation was added. Thus, strangulation cases are being tracked and will be included in the next annual domestic violence statistical report. The Human Services Department is currently in progress of implementing a new case management system which will collect data on strangulations. The final recommendation was for the Human Services Department to refine victim services case management protocols. As an update, the policies and procedures related to general client engagement, follow-up, and client support have been created. In addition, Victim Services Division staff attended Strangulation 101 training, and all Victim Services Division staff are expected to be trained by June of 2026. I will now pass it to Tracy to continue.
Good morning. The case requirements for Phoenix DVFRT review are: the case must be a fatality or a near fatality, which occurred in Phoenix and is fully adjudicated by the court system. This year's case involved a heterosexual married couple with 3 children. The couple lived in the same home but had discussed and contemplated divorce. The wife was seeing another man, and the husband was using a geo-tracking system to stalk the wife's location. In May of 2022, the husband messaged his estranged wife and told her he knew she had been with her boyfriend. The husband also sent a suggestive picture of her and said he would post it on social media to shame her. In response, the wife threatened to call the police. The wife then stayed away from the home for a few days, and when she returned, the husband had left the house with his belongings and a gun. Later that same month, the husband picked up the children from the marital home and took them to his mother's house. He then called his wife, and she did not answer. She was at her boyfriend's home and was unaware the husband had driven to her location. After the unanswered call, the husband walked into the boyfriend's house, proceeded to a bedroom occupied by the wife and her boyfriend, and he fatally shot the boyfriend. He then pointed the gun at the wife and said, "I told you," and she ran into the bathroom. Afterwards, the husband left and contacted his family members to see his children, and then he turned himself in. Although they are less common, assaults and fatalities targeting the new romantic partners of a domestic violence victim happen, and they are another version of tragic outcomes in domestic violence situations. Due to the complexity of the case, the committee found it difficult to identify multiple systemic enhancement recommendations. The recommendations provided in the 2025 report are broad approaches to educating, preventing, and addressing domestic violence. After careful consideration, the DVFRT made 4 recommendations, which Commander Martos will discuss.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for this opportunity to present you with the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team's recommendations for their 2025 case assessment. As you can see, the first recommendation being submitted is to research the need for domestic violence education and prevention programs. Due to the increase in available technologies and exposure to social media, coupled with teen and young adult use of technology and social media, there's a heightened need for prevention and education programs that focus on healthy relationships, access to resources, and education on the appropriate use of technology and public platforms. The Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team recommends creating a subcommittee within the team to explore current and ongoing community-based initiatives and programs that are focused on healthy relationships, specifically for youth, including recognizing healthy boundaries and engagement with technology and social media. This same subcommittee will seek to develop a resource library and identify how to widely share this resource with community members and community partners. Our second recommendation is to explore the need for the expansion of domestic violence education and awareness campaigns. While this recommendation can apply to all domestic violence cases, the team recognized that in this specific case, there were multiple opportunities for intervention, support, and redirection for the parties involved. The team would like to explore the potential for the expansion of domestic violence education and awareness campaigns. The team suggests the City of Phoenix Human Resources Department, in partnership with other departments such as Human Services and Police, explore existing city training videos and review and/or develop new content to enhance or focus on domestic violence awareness. Additionally, research the viability of a domestic violence training module for all city employees to take potentially on an annual basis. The training module could include informational topics such as identifying signs of domestic violence, resources available to victims, and how to report domestic violence. The team would also like to explore expanding current campaigns and seek external partnerships to increase awareness and improve intervention to prevent domestic violence fatalities. The third recommendation is to research options to amend sentencing statutes to include a domestic violence enhancement. In other words, this would include exploring enhancing sentencing of between 2 to 5 years for a person convicted of a homicide when the elements of domestic violence as defined by statute are proven. This would include an evaluation of what legislative changes would be required to achieve this recommendation.
Excuse me one quick second, Commander. Yes. Councilman Waring?
So to the last slide, the 2 to 5 years sentencing increase for a person convicted of homicide, I'm all for it, but I mean, that's not a successful outcome. The victim's dead. I mean, we want to be more proactive than that and try not to have that be the outcome. So why wouldn't we be talking about exploring sentencing? I mean, I'm thinking about the case we talked about, I think for this very review last year, where a person had been, I believe, arrested 5 times before tragedy struck. And Steve, I don't remember you being here for that, so that's unfair for you. I can't remember who else was sitting up here. You know, somewhere having tougher penalties on the steps in the process leading up to the homicide might have a greater impact. Now, I understand, sadly took a trip to death row one time, and they said the one thing, I think at that point there were 121 people on death row, they said, you know what most of them have in common? They're first-time offenders. You know, they just did something horrendous. Other than that, maybe they had a DUI or something, but they weren't like hardened criminals doing this repeatedly. So I get that if the homicide is the first time you interact with the person, then, you know, but for the person we heard of last year who had made threats, I think, did it in front of the kids, there were witnesses, one of the things was a domestic violence thing. Looking at other, I don't want to say typical, but precursor crimes leading up to the homicide would make me feel better. I just don't know, if this was a loved one of mine, I don't know that I'd feel better that the person who did it's going to be in prison for longer when they're probably already going to be in prison for quite a while. They committed a homicide. I just don't know that that's really addressing the problem. It's not criticism of you guys or your work or whatever, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'd like to head it off before it gets to that point to the extent we can.
Chair, Councilman Waring, that brings up a really good point. And in addition to taking a look at what happens when there is a homicide, we can include in the research on potential legislative changes earlier on in the process, as you've indicated, to have penalties to prevent a homicide even to occur.
And I guess, Mr. Chair, I don't want to criticize your word choice. You know, I hate process like that makes it sound like it's almost inevitable. Like the escalation to the point where it's a homicide. You know, if the person's already tried to strangle their spouse, this is from memory, so it's been a year, but I think that was the case. If you're nodding your head, so it sounds like I'm remembering correctly. That was one of the 5 arrests the person had, I think within about an 18-month period last year before the ultimate tragedy. At some point, maybe we should have tougher penalties on some of the things you talk, you know, sticking a gun in your wife's face, or husband, but usually the male perpetrator usually, strangulation or whatever. I feel better if you came back with like, these are the precursor crimes we often see, and we're gonna make sure the person's away from the family by making sure they serve some time, and not just in that case last year where they're right back out in the street, right back in the home almost instantly. And then you throw in the kid component. I think last year, there was an 18-year-old child who witnessed a lot of this. You know, that damages them. You guys talked about reaching out to youth. All for it, totally makes sense. I do think though, what's gonna have a bigger impact? Watching your dad do something horrible at home and you're a teenager, male teenager, you're growing up modeling that, or something that you heard, you know, for a couple-hour class or something with the Cub Scouts or whatever. I just think it's gonna be hard to overcome that. I think there's a lot of data points to show that if you come from an abuser's household, down the road, there's a good potential you're gonna be too. Same with addicts and so forth. Cutting that off as fast as possible, not having the kid model that behavior, it just seems to be more advisable. I'm under no illusions anything I'm saying is easy. So I'm up here in the cheap seats just telling you what would make sense. It's not cheap, but I think giving that a go would be better than still do the homicides, but the other stuff I think could really help maybe lessen the number of homicides. That's really what we want. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, and Councilman Waring, I wholeheartedly agree with you. In addition to that, we have an aggravated domestic violence charge, which works similar to a DUI. After your second or convicted DUI, there are some enhanced punishments, but we can look at, and in fact, there are some conversations that I'm having within my bureau regarding that. What types of crimes are we seeing, even anecdotally, or something that we can see through our cases, that when victims or abusers do certain things, how does that lead up to anything much more violent? And so that's certainly something that we can look into as well.
Mr. Chair, I'm not a lawyer, not a police officer, so did you say the second time? I thought what I heard was we're really gonna hammer you on the domestic violence, aggravated domestic violence on the second offense. That's the way I interpreted what you said. That's not necessarily what you said. I might have just heard it wrong.
Correct. So on domestic violence, I was trying to imply that it works similar to like a DUI. So after your second or third DUI conviction,
Got it.
we do
Yes, the second, correct. Now you're getting on. So with the DUI, it's dangerous to drive drunk. Don't drive drunk. But the first offense, we're trying to get you to not do it. So there's a mandatory 24 hours and so forth. I just think domestic violence, I don't know that I'd put those in the same category exactly in terms of severity and so forth, even though obviously a first-time DUI offender can kill somebody, for sure. I don't know if I look at that the same. Like, alcohol is a legal drug. It's out there. It's being advertised. Sometimes people, not even realizing it, are going to tip over the line. You're going to catch them. And we're like, don't do this again. If you do it again, to your point, the second time's going to be bad. That was some of the part of the bills I talked about on the previous agenda item, and it did work. I just think domestic violence, we should be in zero tolerance. Like, no, as a government, as a society, we're really, really unhappy with you right this second. And we're going to make it hurt a little bit. Like, you should serve some time. I mean, you do have to, I don't think that's changed. You do, if you get a DUI, you have to, and you get convicted, you have to serve 24 hours, correct?
That's correct.
So with what you're talking about, some of the charges going back, again, it's not fair for you, so maybe these guys can help you on that one. The case from last year that we talked about a lot, that was really concerning, I think, to all of us who were sitting up here. I think it was the same membership. I think there were crimes that person committed that they didn't serve any time at all. It sounded like they were right back out immediately. I first don't think those are apples to apples, but second, that's concerning. Like, if you get convicted for it shouldn't be the second time. So maybe we could address that. I appreciate that there, is an escalation, but really, that just doesn't seem appropriate to me. It seems like it should be more. So maybe we could revisit that too, I guess is my specific ask.
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, Councilman Ware, and of course, we can look into that.
And I have just, I talked to a lot of officers, not probably as many as you, Martos, but I do talk, I think that's a source of frustration. They go out and they arrest somebody, what seems like a pretty serious offense most of us would never consider like that was a thing. We got to tell you not to do that. And then they're only in jail for an hour or two, if that, and then they're right back out. You tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think you're probably gonna, having been an officer for a long time. So for a lot of reasons, you got to make that an impactful moment for the person that they realize this happens again, you're probably going to be serving some time for a long time. I don't think we should wait till the second one. Maybe it's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Third recommendation is to research options to amend statutes to include the domestic violence enhancement, which we just spoke about. So let me move on to recommendation number 4. The final 2025 recommendation is to present and share the annual Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team's final report with local government agencies. This would not only include the City of Phoenix, but also our external partners. And with that, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee, this concludes my portion of the presentation. I will now defer to Assistant Director Tracy Hall.
Thank you, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee. In addition to the DVFRT recommendations, the Human Services Department has provided recommendations which are: provide the next review team with an overview of the city's DV services and programs, including the Paint Phoenix Purple and teen dating violence campaigns, information on the services provided through the Family Advocacy Center and the Human Services Department, and other city-related processes and responses pertaining to domestic violence incidents. Secondly, present the DVFRT report to key city commission and task forces, such as the Human Services Commission, the Community Mental Health, Wellness, Public Health, and Safety Task Force, and the Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee, as we are here today. And third, explore the development of a Family Advocacy Center resource guide. The next steps for the DVFRT will be for the city manager to appoint, and we will request, and then the city manager to appoint members for the 2026 team. Then we will begin the review process of information and select cases, and then go through the review process, interviews, and then make recommendations. And then also noting that the 2025 recommendations, the recommendations we're presenting today, will be included in the 2026 report. I'll turn it over to Director Edwards.
Finally, I'd like to thank members of the DVFRT for their time, expertise, and the recommendations that they had shared. Many of them are here in the audience today. Thank you for your time, Chairman Robinson and subcommittee members, for us to share this important information. In addition to any questions that you may have for us on the presentation, we are also interested in hearing your feedback and guidance for us to incorporate into the 2026 DVFRT process.
Okay, I have several questions, but before we get to that, the folks that Ms. Edwards just referred to, the folks on the team, could you please stand up so we know who you are that are in the audience? Thank you for that. Really appreciate what you've done. I think I had Councilwoman Gordado ask first, so Councilwoman Gordado, then I'll go to Councilman Waring.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, team. Commander, thank you for all of your hard work and everything that you're doing. And to everyone else, Jacqueline, thank you so much. All of you that, for everything that you guys are doing. I think this is a very important subject that doesn't get spoken a lot about. I know this has been a big passion for Councilmember Jim Waring, so thank you so much for your leadership on this as well. And I am happy to be able to support this. My only question would be, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I don't like assuming things anymore. I'm assuming that we're also gonna put a lot of this information in Spanish. That we're gonna, as we're going out to the community and we're doing outreach and all the plans that we have.
Chair, Councilwoman Gordado, in our awareness campaigns, we do that in both English and in Spanish.
Perfect. And then my other question, how closely are we working with the school districts to be able to get into the schools and try to make sure that we're tapping into our high school students?
Chair, Councilwoman Gordado, yes, in our both the domestic violence awareness campaign, Paint Phoenix Purple, teen dating violence awareness, which happens to be the month of February, along with our other campaigns like human trafficking awareness, we do work with school districts and provide information at resource fairs, to families, to children themselves, and make sure that information on our own services here within the city, as well as connection to services within the community, are provided.
Great. Well, again, thank you guys for all of your hard work. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the Family Advocacy Center that you guys are talking about, seeing how we can be helpful with that as well. So thank you. Thank you for everything you guys do.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Waring.
Thank you. So I think this is year 20 of the reports. If memory serves, I think we passed that bill in 2005, and I think it went into effect in 2006, so 20 or 21, depending on when the first report was. I guess the goal was to reduce fatalities because folks like you who work in this every day, and officers who work in this every day would learn, from experience. So I'm curious, if you don't know right now, I'd like to know, kind of, again, beating a dead horse, the DUIs, you know, they track those every year. There's not so many of them, it's not an extrapolation. They count how many fatalities there are, and there's a report every year. I'd be curious, going back, have we used the information in these ongoing reports to reduce the number of incidences, to reduce the number of fatalities? Probably this would be more anecdotal from your perspective, to more effectively address the incidences, even if you didn't prevent something from happening, at least maybe you lessen the burden on the family or something. I'm just curious what's been learned in 20 years. I know you guys are too young, you weren't around for the whole 20 years, so. With that
Councilman Waring, I'll begin. And I think last year's recommendations and what was implemented as a result is a really good example. So strangulation in last year's case was highlighted, and it was noted by the team that that was not being tracked, and how those types of DV cases, from the inciting incident where police, fire, CRT personnel, all the way through providing the services to the victims and or their family members, that there were points in that process where whether it was information not being tracked or shared, and as I shared in the presentation today, those things are now being tracked so that if by chance there is a strangulation, we are capturing that information at multiple points in the process, that the services provided to victims and their families are very specific to their needs, from what is being provided by a partner such as Honor Health to what is provided by Human Services Department staff as well. So I think that really gives an example of the process being effective in being able to really support individuals based on the specific needs of the domestic violence case, and as well as incorporating that knowledge and information that there are cases that have specific incidents like strangulation into awareness campaigns and how we share information to try to prevent that. So I would pass it over to police to share on, based on statistics, whether that is, whether domestic violence cases have changed over the last couple decades.
Thank you.
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, Councilman Waring. So in 2024, these are statistics from obviously 2 years ago, we had 19 domestic violence related homicides. We're still waiting for the numbers for 2025 official numbers. But if you recall, when we went through the pandemic, the bigger number of homicides were domestic violence related. I would love to say that the work of the men and women on this team have contributed somewhat to at least providing information, resources, making that more information more available to our community may have helped in some of these cases. But again, we'll wait to see a little bit more. We do know, or we're on track rather, this in 2025 to have less reported domestic violence cases in 2025 than we did in 2024. We're still waiting those official numbers yet, though.
Mr. Chair, can I, so 2024, can you refresh my memory, how many homicides in Phoenix were there total?
In 2024, it was at about 146. I may be off or so.
So 1/7 were domestic violence. If it's 19 out of
19 cases.
Ballpark, I mean. That is telling. One thing, again, the goal with the DUI was, it was shocking how many people were getting killed every year or maimed in DUIs, but how big of a group that was out of unnatural fatalities in Arizona. That's kind of how I got into that. It was not unlike the fireworks. It was a man-made problem that could be avoided by altering people's behavior. People are always going to rob banks, and you can't do an ad campaign saying don't rob banks. They know they're not supposed to. They still do. Sometimes there's a gun battle, people get killed. I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be human error. But if you could address half of the domestic violence fatalities by interdiction earlier in, again, I don't want to use process. I understand why you use that word, but I guess escalation might be the word I'd use. Somewhere before it escalates to that point, that's a decent chunk of all the homicides in Phoenix. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, like, this is not, you're not going to be able to prevent, somebody's mugging somebody and they shoot them or something. You're not going to be able to, there aren't enough officers. There's not going to be somebody on every street corner to address all of those. It's going to be impossible to get that to zero. You're also not going to get this to zero. That would be an admirable goal. It's not realistic, probably. But cutting it in half, like, measurable goals help. Like, doing things that address this, that was my hope 20 years ago with this. Like, we'd learn more about it. What are the warning signs? You talk about strangulation. Yeah, that's definitely, you're definitely on a good course. I don't know how else to frame it. Making sure the person understands the future consequences by giving them a taste of what life is going to be like in prison or whatever with serious sanctions might alter their behavior. Maybe they vacate the household, maybe they move to another state, getting away from the situation, something. Anything's better than the homicides. So again, I appreciate upping the penalties on that, but that is after the fact. So that'd be great. I think that would be, I won't be here to see it, term limited, but it would be great if, like, 10 years from now, you were like, we got that number down to 10. And it stayed there. I think that would be a worthy goal and possibly achievable one. It's going to take effort. There's no doubt about it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I just had a couple real quick questions. On slide number 6, victim, spouse, and ex-spouse, the one that really caught my eye was boyfriend, girlfriend, over 5,500, almost 5,600. I know there are adults in that number, but any idea on, it may go a little bit to the question Councilwoman Guardado had about whether or not we're in the high schools, any idea on how many of those are teenagers? I know police officers are now more aware of clearly what a domestic violence is and what it, who it relates to. So is there any information that has that?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, I don't have that number readily available, but that's something I can certainly get from you from, you're looking for teenage years.
I would be, I'm just curious about that because I think that would, again, it would support a little bit more about what Councilwoman Guardado is, but you're already doing it. You're in the schools, but maybe there needs to be a more concerted effort on the schools part to really make a better awareness of domestic violence so folks truly understand what it is. And what that also tells us, and it leads to my next question. So the overview of the 2025 case on slide 17, and you don't necessarily have to go to it, but by chance, do we know if we had been out at that house or address, or had the police had any contact with that couple prior to it becoming a fatal incident?
Councilman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, to my recollection, there had been no police interaction. There had been no priors. The perpetrator had received some counseling through, he was in the military, and had received some recovery issues for alcoholism. I think on more than one occasion that happened. And they had gone to therapy once, but he did not like it and felt that the therapist was favoring the wife because it was a female. And then there were some language barriers in finding alternative therapists for that couple. But no, to my recollection, there had not been any indications of domestic violence or calls for service to the home.
All right, thank you very much. And the very last question, it's a definition thing more than anything else, where you talk about fatal or near fatal domestic violence case. It was on slide 16. When we say a near fatal, are we talking an aggravated assault, or are we talking one person shoots and another person misses? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what a near fatal incident is, or does it require hospitalization?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. So a lot of that may be decided by the charging agency at the time, but if you think about someone with their intent who may want the situation to end in a homicide, but it doesn't, sometimes it is much easier, is my understanding, much easier to charge an aggravated assault. So the threshold is easier to charge that rather than attempted homicide. So some of that may be based on charging.
Okay,
I
thank
do
you very
have
much.
One thing, I apologize.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you. And I appreciate the questions about working with our schools to get children information. Having been a former school board member, everybody thinks that the schools are a great place to go get our kids additional information besides what we're already charged with teaching them every year. So I would encourage you to also be creative in figuring out how to work with youth organizations. I understand being at fairs and resource events is a good opportunity. However, our schools and our teachers are inundated with what they have to do. So social media, again, your job is very difficult, and reaching out to the young people who need to be reached out to is important. I will tell you that I dated somebody who was abusive in college. And if it hadn't been for a flyer in a doctor's office, I wouldn't have known what I'd gotten myself into. I wish I had been more educated prior to that, but it is hard to reach young people and teach them something they're just not aware of. And on the flip side, you have people that my colleagues have talked about where they're raised in these homes and it's all they know, so they don't know any differently. But I just challenge you to be a little creative and work with different organizations to reach our youth and not just depend on our schools given their workload. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for your work. Thank everybody. It's a great deal of work. It's important, and we really appreciate all that you do. So thank you very much. Next, what we will do is we'll jump back to item number 3, the police heat squad overview. So it's an update on the police department's heat squad. We'll welcome Phoenix Police Chief Matt Giordano, Commander Julia Gia, Lieutenant Chris Parisi, and Human Services Director Jacqueline Edwards, who is already at the table, to the table.
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having us today and giving us this opportunity to highlight all the work done by the HEAT squad. For those who don't know, HEAT is human exploitation and trafficking. It's ironic for me because back in the late 90s, when we used to have an organized crime bureau, I was part of an undercover vice team back then. And I look at the investigation we did back then to make an impact around the city. And I look where we are today, and it's really impressive. So I brought with me today Commander Julia Gia of our Drug Enforcement Bureau, who oversees HEAT, Lieutenant Chris Parisi. We brought an ally from Grand Canyon University, Chief Mark Heimel. He should look familiar to you, to talk about all the good work they're doing. And then Jacqueline is with us as well, so thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it right over to Commander Gia and let her highlight all the good things that her unit's been doing.
Okay. Mark, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson and members of the Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee. The Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit, known as HEAT, the mission is to investigate and disrupt, the mission is to investigate and disrupt human trafficking and related exploitation, protect victims, and enforce laws through proactive operations, community engagement, and interagency collaboration. Currently, the staffing for the HEAT unit is 2 sergeants, 9 detectives, and 3 civilians. The 3 civilians consist of an analyst, a civilian investigator, and an individual who works with liquor. The core functions of the HEAT unit involve targeting human and sex traffickers. They investigate child and adult sex trafficking, conduct undercover operations to infiltrate traffic networks. They also look at prostitution activity enforcement. They monitor and enforce prostitution, pandering, and sexually oriented business laws. Commercial sex buyer enforcement. This targets the demand for commercial sex. They also conduct victim outreach operations. HEAT will rescue and recover victims and with an emphasis on juvenile victims, and they connect these victims to services. They vet information, tips, and investigations. They receive and investigate tips from hotlines, silent witness, community complaints, and other resources. They also focus on juvenile victim recovery. They prioritize these operations aimed at locating and recovering exploited minors. They work with other agencies to provide advanced training to not only law enforcement partners, but other NGOs on human trafficking. And as we know, they work with the legislator. As of today, they were over there testifying to increase penalties for sex buyers. HEAT currently utilizes 3 separate funding sources. DPS, Anti-Human Trafficking Grant. They're awarded approximately $355,000 for overtime funding and $118,000 for equipment. They also utilize the FBI Greater Phoenix Area Human Trafficking Task Force grant that authorizes 1 task force supervisor and 6 task force officers. They provide approximately $25,000 per position. And we also work with the Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs that specifically focus on victim outreach. And that provides us with $90,000 for overtime funding, $78,000 equipment and supplies, and $34,000 for traveling and additional training. The unit currently uses mobile dome cameras with altering red and blue flashing lights. I actually had the opportunity last night to go to GCU, and so afterwards I drove the area, and actually it's been a few years since I've been out that way at night, and I observed the cameras, and there was one right there on the corner of 27th Avenue and an Indian school, and the area was quiet, so hopefully it was related to the camera being up. But these cameras are designed to serve as a visual deterrent against all criminal activity. The cameras are deployed in high activity areas, including areas of high prostitution activity. They're easily relocatable to respond to changing crime patterns, and we have received positive feedback from the community on these cameras. To focus on the 27th Avenue corridor, during the 2025 calendar year, the HEAT unit arrested 27 traffickers. They recovered 52 juveniles that were operations, which resulted in 394 arrests, and conducted 21 customer apprehension operations, resulting in 123 arrests. Also during the 2025 calendar year, he conducted 9 hotel outreach operations, which resulted in 79 contacted individuals, which were all offered services. The HEAT unit has also partnered with Grand Canyon University. With this partnership, it's enabled us to increase enforcement in and around the GCU campus and 27th Avenue and Indian School corridor. We are also working to integrate GCU technologies with the Cactus Park Real-Time Crime Center, as well as conduct joint prostitution operations on 27th Avenue. At this point, I'd like to hand it over to Lieutenant Priest to discuss some of the investigations they've conducted.
Sorry, first time here. As Commander Agia went over a lot of the stuff we've been doing the last couple of years, there's a lot of numbers involved with it and a lot of operations, but what I'm gonna go over real quick is some of our more notable investigations. These are very nuanced. They take a lot of hours and time, and it's just not the typical stuff that people think of with heat. One of the bigger things we've done over the last couple years was the Royal Inn Hotel investigation. That was a partnership with the FBI and our heat unit. We did a lot of the undercover work for it, a lot of the work that went into the investigation. Through that investigation, we shut down this hotel, which in essence served as a brothel. A lot of the neighborhood complaints did come from that Palo Verde Street up north, and if you drive through there now, you just don't see the activity. Not that it hasn't shifted other places, but that was a big event we did there. Through the collective surveillance and UC deals, and a large number of arrests were made. Through the seizure process, we seized $1.2 million in cash and another $4.5 million in commercial and residential property. Those people are no longer the owners of the property, and there's future ideas of what's going to happen there, including the basic demolition of the hotel. Again, a lot of the bigger sentences we get involve very nuanced investigations to get probable cause on some of these people for sentences that sometimes go decades, takes a lot of time, a lot of manpower from the detectives. Some of our notable investigations involve an incident where he received information from patrol after a shooting call. Victim identified her trafficker and agreed to cooperate. He'd established probable cause for the arrest. Suspect was arrested, a lot of times with the use of our FADE unit. Evidence was found linked to the original call. He confessed to the crime after search warrants were executed. He was booked on and charged with 10 felonies. Adjudication is waiting on that, but a lot of the ones we get, again, span decades in prison for these cases, a lot involving juveniles. Lastly, another notable investigation was when he received information about a prior adult victim, about a juvenile trafficker. Detectives engaged with the trafficker to confirm his identity and his intentions with that juvenile. A trafficker scheduled encounters for the juvenile with 2 males who arrived at that location. Investigators located the trafficker and arrested him. Child pornography was found on the trafficker's cell phone, charged with 10 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. And again, with these cases, it involves a lot of cell phone tracking, a lot of surveillance hours, technology kind of outside the box thinking to get them apprehended and get them adjudicated and get them the years they get in prison. And that is all I have for the investigations.
In the Human Services Department, the Victim Services Division provides trauma-informed support to those who have been human trafficked and assist victims with crisis intervention, safety planning, victims' rights, navigation through law enforcement and court systems, emergency shelter and housing, orders of protection, and general basic needs disrupted due to the victimization. In 2025, HSD served nearly 300 clients who were victims of human trafficking, which includes prostituted individuals. 1,485 unique services were provided to these clients. HSD's mobile victim advocate that focuses on human trafficking partnered with the Phoenix Police Department on 40 separate occasions, including in street enforcements and hotel outreach, to connect those who have been prostituted and trafficked and connect them to services. Additionally, staff visited the county's intake, transfer, and release facility located at the county jail 10 times throughout 2025 to engage victims who were arrested the night before on street operations. The Human Services Department also leads the city's effort to raise community and city staff awareness for human trafficking. Led and chaired by Councilman Waring, the Human Trafficking Task Force consists of subject matter experts in academia, advocates, service providers, law enforcement, and survivors. An effort stemming from the work of the Human Trafficking Task Force and championed by Councilman Waring, the city earned the Cities Empowered Against Sexual Exploitation, or CEASE, designation in February of 2025 from the Arizona Anti-Human Trafficking Network. This was after over 90% of city staff took training about human trafficking and sexual exploitation. It is important to note that we only needed 75% of staff to complete the training to obtain the designation, and we far exceeded that in the city of Phoenix. January is known as Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and I am pleased to share activities that the city supported all throughout the month of January in 2026 to raise awareness. City Hall was lit blue all month long. We hosted a Wear Blue Day. We had various radio segments sharing information about human trafficking in both English and in Spanish. There were multiple events hosted, both in person and webinars, including a webinar for staff, which was hidden in plain sight, recognizing and responding to human trafficking, which was very well attended. Across all 13 events, there were nearly 500 attendees. We know that we cannot end human trafficking by ourselves, though, and this is why we partner with more than 30 organizations to raise awareness and provide services to the victims and the survivors of human trafficking. Thank you.
You know, before we go too much further, let me, if you don't mind, Chief Heimel, if you could, because the partnership with GCU is so important, can you give us an idea of what you're seeing in your area, just, you know, what you're seeing, what the partnership has been like, and any strategies going forward?
Chairman Robinson and members of the Public Safety Subcommittee, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Chief Giordano, obviously this is a very important topic, not only for Grand Canyon University, but also for our community members and the neighborhoods in that general area, but from a societal perspective as a whole. I would say this, to start off, the partnership with Phoenix Police has been absolutely outstanding. Lieutenant Parise and his team have been just exceptional in terms of service and collaborating with us, providing intelligence, allowing us to provide innovative ideas on how we can potentially solve the problem. What I'm seeing and some of you may know, you may not know, about a year ago, we remodeled 2 buildings out on 27th Avenue. The idea was for us to be closer to the track and closer to 27th Avenue from a uniform presence, to be able to look at a deterrent model, as well as have more engagement with some of the activities that we're seeing off campus, and we could communicate that with Phoenix PD as well as have some type of enforcement. So the collaborative approach has been extremely successful. There's a lot of work to be done, there is no doubt. I think depending on how you view the situation, there's a layered approach that involves multiple stakeholders, and it's a 3-pronged approach when you look at the prostitution activity, when you look at the buyers that are out there, and then of course I think everybody at this table would agree that we all want to target sex traffickers, and that's the crux of the problem.
Okay, thank you very much, I do appreciate it. I think Councilman Waring had the first question, then Councilwoman Giordano.
Thank you. First, to the chief, discussing his time undercover. That immediately made me think of you in a floral print shirt, a Jeff Spicoli haircut. I'm surprised you weren't immediately ferreted out as an officer and had something dastardly happening to you. I'm surprised you were able to pull that off, but apparently you did. I should tell you that Lieutenant Parise does a fantastic job. He sits on the Human Trafficking Task Force. But his predecessors also have been fantastic. I think our 13th anniversary will be in December. Just really moved by the work that they do, the passion that they bring to that work. So he, as a representative of this unit, and like I said, his predecessors do a fantastic job. And I know the other committee members too feel really strongly about it. So I wanted to say that. We've talked about, fireworks. We put together a task force. Hard to locate where the fireworks going to be, right? That's a big city, 5,000 miles of streets, where to go. Domestic violence, sadly, cuts across all demographics. Could be any house. Again, identifying, like, you can't really do a stakeout. It doesn't lend itself to that. The cases, as the lieutenant said, are incredibly complicated, time-consuming, but well worth it when you hear the stories from the victims, which we have had the opportunity to do on the task force. I mean, the stories are horrendous. So the people who get convicted of these crimes, they deserve their punishments. So very glad the sentences tend to be heightened, but it's very hard to get the convictions because the cases are complicated. But you can identify, as you clearly have, troublesome areas where there is a concentration where, frankly, citizens can get the most bang for their law enforcement buck and eliminate as much of this as is possible in one fell swoop. So I appreciate your focus on the areas you focused on. While the actual interactions could happen anywhere in the city, the point where people are coming together or where people congregate or engaging in this activity seems to be more concentrated. If what I understand from different presentations at our hearings, and even people who work in different cities in law enforcement have told us. So I appreciate that. Keep it up. There was a time, I believe in 2016, where there was talk about getting rid of the heat unit. I was glad that got undone. Chief, I think you were still on the force then, but obviously not chief at that time. So unfortunately, I think the unit is smaller than it used to be. But I recognize your manpower issues and that you have to get people out on the streets to maximize the number of officers who are responding to calls in a city that's growing and has fewer officers than it used to, and even fewer than it had in 2016. So anything you can do to maintain that force, because I know from obviously firsthand experience chairing this task force, the important work that those folks are doing. And I just cannot impress enough how much they clearly care. And that matters to me too. This is people who understand the importance of what they're doing and are acting on that with a robustness that I personally have appreciated. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gordado.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, thank you guys for all of your hard work. Lieutenant, long time no see. We were just at the state advocating for support, and want to shout out to Senator Flavio Bravo for all of his hard work over at the state and partnering with us to figure out a lot of these challenges and issues that we're talking about today. But Chief, I had a couple questions for you to begin with. Are staff experiencing backlogs, delayed timelines, or difficulty meeting expectations because of capacity constraints?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, Councilman Gordado. Yes, like Councilman Warren mentioned, we're always struggling with staffing issues and resource allocations. So again, we could always increase or decrease timelines with more manpower. It's funny, this is Commander Gia's third day in this seat. So we've already had a couple conversations about exactly what Lieutenant Priest mentioned a few minutes ago, is thinking outside the box. I talk about my time in working in this unit. It was completely different. But again, I think there's things we can do differently. We had a brief conversation last week about, it sounds like the lieutenant has some creative ideas, whether that's moving in staff temporarily out for patrol and for brief stints, one, to learn some of the issues, learn some of the techniques, but also to act as a force multiplier are things we're looking at doing. But to basically, for the answer to your question, yes, we do struggle with caseload and our workloads.
And how does current staffing compare to what staff believe is needed to effectively manage the current workload?
You know, I asked that question to the team, and they thought a fully staffed unit would be 1 sergeant, 8 detectives out on the street doing investigations, 1 detective or 1 sergeant, 8 detectives doing the background intel work. So about 16 with 2 sergeants. Now, that's just something we thought would be ideal, but with the things we're thinking about that Lieutenant Parise has mentioned, and that I'm going to work with Commander Gio on, we'll be working on trying to build up some of the staffing, but it might be through temporary assignments, people rotating in, rotating out. So again, we're not pulling people out permanently from patrol positions.
And what are the consequences when the units is stretched too thin, either for case outcomes, response times, or staff burnout and retention?
In a nutshell, I would say that the biggest hindrance for us is we can't help victims. We can't help as many victims as we would be able to if we were fully staffed and we had more people. But they do it, like you said, they do a phenomenal job of helping the members of our community. We just always want to do more. I just was at a conference not too long ago and listened to Heidi Chance give a speech, and she was in that unit for a lot of years. And just the passion you could hear in her voice, even though she's no longer there, it was quite moving. So understand and recognize the importance of this assignment.
And are there tasks or cases that are being delayed or deprioritized due to limited staffing?
Just with anything, when you have finite resources, you have to prioritize what you focus on. So we look for the most severe cases and focus on those at the top of the list.
And has staff compared the heat unit's staffing levels and workload to similar units in other large cities or jurisdictions?
You know, anecdotally, I know they always talk to their peers around the country. Have we ever sat down and actually looked at what their staffing models are completely? We have not, but that is definitely something we can do.
If you guys can look into that, and then maybe at our next or at some briefing, we can talk more about it, that would be great. Just
Absolutely.
to have more of an idea of where we need to go and where we're at. That would be
Absolutely.
amazing.
We're happy to do that.
And based on best practices, what does a well-resourced unit typically look like for a city of Phoenix's size and demand?
That would be part of that same research follow-up that we're going to do for you on the previous question.
Okay, and then Lieutenant, I have a question for you. I 100% appreciate, my heart goes out to you guys every day for all the work that you guys are doing and taking the calls. I know that it's, my district is one of the ones that's very hit by a lot of the issues that we're talking about. And I remember when you guys shut down the Royal Inn, that was like a huge impact in the district, and it changed people's lives. So thank you for that. But my question for you is, how long did it take the investigation from the beginning to the end? How long was that?
It was about 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
And do you think if we would have had more resources, it would have taken less time?
For that particular case, I don't think it would have taken less time just because of the nature of the investigation, but kind of like the chief talked about, when we're putting manpower into one thing, we're taking it away from other things. So that factored into the overall problem as well.
Great. Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So I just want to start by saying clearly that I support the mission of the heat unit and deeply respect the staff who are doing this work every day. My concern is not about effort or commitment, it's about capacity. The heat unit is being asked to take on expanding and increasingly complex scope of work without a corresponding increase in staffing, funding, or operational support. Based on the workload we are seeing and the expectations placed on this unit, it is clear that the heat unit is understaffed for the amount of complexity of work it is being asked to deliver. When a unit this critical to public safety and accountability is under-resourced, the consequences are real. Slower timelines, increased burnout, and weaker outcomes for the communities that rely on this work. If we believe this work is a priority, and I do, then our investments need to reflect that priority. The current approach is not sustainable, and it is not fair to the staff or to the neighborhoods counting on this unit to be effective. And I believe that neighbors understand that. I believe that the communities on 27th Avenue, 19th Avenue, 35th Avenue understand the understaffing and try to be patient, but they appreciate the work that you guys do every day for the neighbors, and I appreciate it as well. I am very grateful to the partnership with GCU as well, and everything that you guys are doing to partner with us and really respecting and understanding everything that our neighbors have to say every day. So, and we know that there's so many efforts from Human Services Department as well. I know it's going to take a village, and it's taking a village, and we're thankful to the state as well for the work that they're doing as we speak there as well. But with that being said, I am requesting to add another Heat Squad update to a future PSJ agenda with information on concrete options to strengthen the heat unit's capacity. Those options should include staffing and budget recommendations to address workload and case volume, as well as any reallocation, phase staffing, or near-term adjustments that could improve effectiveness. I also want an assessment of current workload compared to staffing levels and relevant best practices. These should be presented with clear timelines and fiscal impacts so the council can make an informed decision about how to properly resource this unit. And again, we're here, we're committed. We want to make sure that we can help in any way possible and make the changes that we need to make to make this hard job that you guys do every single day out there just a little bit more easier. I don't know if that's a word I should use, but at least giving you guys everything you guys need to continue to support our neighborhoods. Thank you so much, and thank you, Chairman, for letting me speak.
You're welcome. No additional questions from the committee. Thank you guys very much for your hard work. It is truly appreciated. So thank you. Our final presentation today will be provided by the CAP Administrator, DC Ernst, and Police Communications Administrator, Alexandra Edwards. They will provide a quarterly update on the CAP hiring efforts and expansion.
Good afternoon, Chair Robinson and council members. Thank you for having us before you again today to give you an update on the Community Assistance Program. Some of this is repeat from what we just talked about a week ago in policy, so I'll try to move it along a little bit faster. But today we will be reviewing again the recruitment, staffing, and our collaboration with the police department. Our recruitment continues. This is our first class of 2026 on the slide. We just actually closed another recruitment on February 2nd. We had over 170 applications turned in, and we're looking forward to reviewing those as we continue to work towards the achievement of 10 crisis response teams and the 9 behavioral health teams. This slide represents our current staffing. You may recognize that there is a significant change in what we presented last year. Last year, when we presented, we were at over 90% filled. In late 2025, we worked with the Human Resources Department and with Class and Compensation to reallocate some of our part-time positions to create full-time positions. So this new number of 79% shows the 21 new full-time positions that were created and that we are currently recruiting for or just finished recruiting for. As we've talked about before, we have reached the goal of 9 behavioral health units in service, which was our goal. They are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they are dispatched through the 911 system, and we've been working collaboratively with my partner, Allie Edwards from Police Communications, to ensure that those calls are transferred, and I'd like to turn the presentation over to Allie.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee.
On December 15th, 2025, 911 operators began asking a new triage question, specifically asking, do you need police, fire, or behavioral health? The goal is to identify in the beginning of the call if the caller needs police, fire, or behavioral health services, or a combination of those services. Asking the additional question allows more insight into what is occurring in that moment. The question helps the operator triage the call to ensure the right services are being sent from the beginning. Recently, we took a call of a female that had been outside crying for over an hour. During the questioning of the call, it was determined that neither PD or fire were needed to respond. The call was transferred to Behavioral Health Unit for response. BHU responded, and the team engaged with the customer and confirmed she was already connected to CBI, and the customer declined additional services. They were able to provide snacks, water, and a behavioral health screening at that time. What would have originally been a check welfare done by police, now behavioral health units were able to respond and offer the services that the individual needed at that time. Since implementing the new question, there has been a significant increase in the amount of calls that are being directed to BHU. Comparing the first 8 months of 2024 with the same time period in 2025, there's been a 98% increase in call volume. You will see the 701 calls transferred in December 2025 represent the highest number recorded since the call transfer procedures were established. This milestone highlights the continued growth and utilization of the system, as well as the increasing demand for coordinated behavioral health response. This demonstrates also the effectiveness of the assessment done by the 911 operators and the behavioral health operators in identifying calls, as well as the overall impact of adding the additional question and the continued partnership between Phoenix PD 911 and the behavioral health team and fire. And I will turn it back to DC.
Thank you, Allie. So not only was there an increase in the call volume that was transferred, but as you can see on this slide, the actual calls for service for the behavioral health units also went up, and we reached a milestone of over 1,000 calls in 1 month. When you compare total 2024 to the total of 2025, we've experienced a 96% increase in calls for service for the behavioral health units. In addition, this is just a snapshot of December's breakdown of whether we responded as a singular unit or in co-response model. And again, we reached a milestone of 79% of our calls being responded to as a singular unit. For our crisis response units, we're continuing to hire for those positions. We're currently at 60% of the goal of 10 crisis response units. However, in January of 2026, due to some reallocation of shifts, we are able now to say that we have 24/7 coverage for CR units responding throughout the city of Phoenix. And the call volumes for the crisis response teams have remained consistent over the past 4 or 3 years, with December having 481 calls for service. As you may recall, the crisis response units are set up a little bit different than the behavioral health units. They are scheduled or are set up as co-response with fire and police, so over 90% of their calls are co-response models. Despite the increase in calls for behavioral health, we have been able to maintain our average response times under 25 minutes, with behavioral health units responding in 20 minutes in December. Again, this map illustrates where our locations are and where some of our future locations will be. I also wanted to highlight that in December of 2025, we held our 3rd annual remembrance event. Collaborating with Pastor Cleo Lewis, we developed outreach for individuals who are currently unhoused, where community partners came together to offer services. We also, during 2025, unfortunately lost over 600 people in Maricopa County while they were unhoused. Our team members made sure that every one of those individuals' names were read and were played during this event. When people were brought to this event, they were offered services, offered pet services, and we were able to get people into treatment and into shelter as they needed it. As we continue to move forward, we'll continue the onboarding. One of the other things, the last bullet point on here, is we've been asked a couple of times by council members if there will be an alternative way to reach a crisis response or behavioral health unit. And we currently have a Marvin Andrews fellow researching other jurisdictions to see how they do it, and she will be providing us a report shortly, and we hope to present that information to you in the summer. And with that, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman O'Brien.
Just would like to say thank you for all of your hard work and congratulations on the successes you have achieved and will continue to achieve. The number of calls you're handling is remarkable. I would just ask that you keep an eye on that and make sure we are continuing to be alerted about the impact to your staff and our response time, so we're taking care of you all while we're taking care of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Brien.
You know, the only question I had, real quick one for Ms. Edwards, I'm just more curious than anything else. When your operators are asking, do you need police, fire, or behavioral health, what are we normally getting? I mean, anecdotally, can you tell us a little bit about what people are telling you or what they're telling your operators and how that decision then is made?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Hearing anecdotally, some members of the community definitely know what that means, and they are able to answer the question that this call is tied to some sort of behavioral health situation that is going on at the time. Others are unsure what that means, so continuing education just around the term behavioral health is probably something that everybody can learn more about. But if they don't answer that question or are unsure of it, our team has a set of 4 additional questions that they do ask during the call to determine if the call needs to be transferred to behavioral health or have some behavioral health component to that. So there's a couple different ways that we're fielding that call, or all of our calls, in order to capture them.
Okay, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. There are no additional questions for you guys, so thank you very much for the presentation. Now I'll look for the coin. Okay, just checking. Okay. Items 6 and 7 are information only. Do either of my colleagues have any questions or comments on either one? That not being the case, the last item today is a call to the public. We'll go to the first one. I believe it's Angel Algarin. Are they still on the line? No longer? Okay, then Elizabeth Venerable.
One second. Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I'm getting this up and I can start. Basically, what I wanted to talk about today is to not see, I'll just put the phone down, it doesn't even matter. It's an encumbrance. Basically, I wanted to talk about how there's a need to see services as being fully integrated in with law enforcement and not siloed. And I think that I've seen a lot of good presentations and today where you look at services as being sort of integrated into the law enforcement model and how it can create efficiency, right? It can solve multiple angles of different problems with multiple different tools and not simply one tool. And I appreciate the fact that that's changed a bit over the past few years. In the past, there was much more of a one-size-fits-all approach, and that one-size-fits-all was just street-level patrolling, especially for the subpopulations that Fund for Empowerment works with. It took a lot of sort of struggle to get to this point, but you can see that you have better outcomes when you have all the different approaches put into one piece. And so I wanted to propose that simply reiterate that you should consider the shelters, keeping the shelters open and other services and possibly investing more as an aspect of public safety as well. Because, for example, certain, like with the SOS, there are certain subpopulations that cannot stay anywhere else, basically, in the city of Phoenix that would otherwise be paroled to street corners like they were in the past before the SOS was started. And, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the SOS, but you can see, like, if people that have certain types of backgrounds don't have a place to go, right, then they're much more likely to be out committing different types of offenses out of desperation. So, I just have to keep, for me, the budget process begins, in January, right? So I just wanted to bring a public safety angle to that issue. It's not just the one-to-one cost savings wherein you don't have to divert resources from actual, more serious offenses to sort of street level, like enforcement of, I know you did the jaywalking and other things like that, but the goal is to have a reduction in the need for law enforcement. So, and services can help do that. So that's my plug.
Okay, Elizabeth, thank you very much. Next speaker is Dorian Brendan.
Hello, my name is Dorian Brendan, Fund for Empowerment. Just a quick note about kind of like recent events, local community and police enforcement. The police should not escort or assist ICE. It decreases the promised and projected coverage of city assistance to which the officer's duty is to jurisdictionally protect. Less coverage results in either broken promises to their community or results in overextending of officers and or budgets that were not approved by said community. The recent purchase of the Surprise warehouse by DHS to the tune of $70 million cash shows they themselves have a budget that does not need local officer assistance. In contrast to the budget they flaunt, the lack of training, cohesion, uniform, or even expressed goal shows a severe lack of professionalism, and lending local officers to any degree gives up our protections as a community to instead pay for security for those agents. Along with recent incidents with these agents, local law enforcement officers are blocked from evidence or information. Do not expect them to do any different with us. Please ensure that the City of Phoenix continues its stance of not directly assisting ICE.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that my fellow members have all made requests for future agenda items. Are there any other additional items?
I do have one additional item.
Yes, Councilman O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. In May, when the school resource officer agreements comes relative to the grant application, I'd also like that presentation to include how the city will be handling the rehire retiree officers to help us fill our SRO/SSO positions. I know there's recently been a conference related to school safety, and all the districts were encouraged, district/schools were encouraged to actually request SROs. So I want to make sure that while they would be SROs through that part of it, we are prepared to handle as best we can those requests, because I think they will be significantly increased.
We will make sure to include that, Councilwoman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Okay. Excuse me. That being the case, the time is 12:23. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
And Phoenix. This is more than just a new route. It is also a meaningful milestone in the close partnership between Taiwan and the United States. American Eagle has just led a delegation to Taiwan